The Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your SuperChats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
It has been a wild weekend for Jet fans. What is the plan at quarterback? We'll break down the latest. He's Frankie V. I'm Jake Asman. It's the Jake Asman Show. Let's hit it and get it started.
I let the organization down, and I let the players down, and that burns me. It really does. This season's on me, and we're going to work our ass off to get this shit exactly where it needs to be.
A new chapter for the Jets has started. Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji are tasked with shaping the future of this franchise. Will they be the ones to finally get it right? We will be here for every step of the journey on the Jake Asman Show, breaking down all the storylines, every game, and everything in between. Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super Chats, baby. Cut the line. The Jake Asman Show starts right now.
Here we go, Jet fans. Welcome in, everybody. Before we bring on our guest, Frankie V from U Stadium, big thank you to every Asmaniac who came out to T-Squared Social yesterday for our NFL watch party. We had over 50 listeners there, which is crazy for a non-Jet-related outing. We will do more of these because it was such a great success. Again, thank you to everyone who was there. Congrats to our halftime raffle winners. Our guy Ted, you see on screen there, won the signed Bart Scott Can't Wait jersey. Our guy Eli, a.k.a. Common Country, won a signed LaDainian Tomlinson photo. We had a signed Sauce Gardner jersey that was raffled away. We had a closest to the T contest on the golf simulators. We had a who's who of Asmaniacs there, from Charles Gorman to Mad Max. I mean, it was just an awesome time. So, again, thanks to everyone who came out yesterday. We will do more of these in the future. With that said, welcome in, folks. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're presented by FanDuel. We'll talk about the Steelers and the Texans game coming up later tonight, final game of Wild Card Weekend. But right now, let's talk some Jets, and we say hello to our guy, Frankie V, who will be a weekly at this time now that we're in off-season mode. And Frankie's a big draft guy, diehard Jet fan. And, of course, you see him on my show all the time, and you watch him on the Gangs All Here podcast with Brian Costello and Ryan Sampson from the New York Post. Frankie, happy Monday, man. We got a lot to talk about.
Jake, yes, we do. I did come to your event, but I was late, as I usually am with everything. So Jake had left already. You know, Jake's a big shot here. He's not going to stay that late. So, yeah, I showed up a little later. But that place is cool, man, T-Squared Social. They got a great TV setup there. They do a good job, man. They do a good job.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And big thank you to everyone at T-Squared for hosting another great event for our listeners. I mean, where do we start, Frankie? I figured we'd talk a little bit about the playoffs because I do think there are some Jet ties here. Like, I'm watching all these games, and honestly, as sad as this is, you know what my thought was? Man, the Jets are nowhere near playoff caliber. Like, they're not even close. Like, you look at just the offensive creativeness, and you just look at how these games are being played and the scoring in these games, specifically the scoring in the fourth quarter and how easy it looks for so many of these teams. It's like you either have, like, the Superman quarterback, like what Josh Allen did yesterday, or you have, like, the quarterback and the head coach combination that can elevate the entire franchise, a la Ben Johnson with Caleb Williams, or what Trevor Lawrence was before this year. Now you look at him with Liam Cohen, and you keep going down the list. 9 of the 14 coaches in these playoffs are offensive-minded. What were your takeaways? Because I just kind of got depressed a little bit as a Jet fan watching these great games.
Yeah, man, it looked like almost a different sport, right? We got so used to watching this Jets team all year. You see the football that was played this past weekend. It was incredible, man. It was refreshing to see quality football. The one thing I noticed outside of the offenses that were just exploding everywhere, was the defenses, man. They were making tackles everywhere. You see, there was no broken tackles. There was no, guys weren't going for 50 yards on the ground. It was just defenses all over the place. Robert Saleh had those guys playing hard. The Patriots, look at their defense yesterday. It was something where I was saying it with Jastrzemski and some people at the table, Kenny and some people. Notice how there's really no broken tackles happening in these games. The first offender is making those tackles 90% of the time. And it's just, we're so far away from getting there. And I think the one position I'm looking at outside of linebackers that we need to address. That's secondary, our safeties, man. We need to get some safeties back there that can make tackles at the line of scrimmage or maybe 5 to 7 yards off, at least at the second level. We need guys that are able to make tackles, because I was watching defenders yesterday all over the place, safeties, etc., just making tackles everywhere, going sideline to sideline. And we didn't see a lot of that this year, Jake. We really didn't. We were one of the worst tackling teams in football. And having a defensive head coach, you would figure that wouldn't be the case. So next year, I'm really looking at those safeties and even corners. How are they doing stopping these ball carriers? It's big, man.
And then even before the playoffs started, we all were excited to watch Mendoza versus Moore, Oregon going up against Indiana. And the jokes, I mean, everyone was making them, non-Jet fans making them. First pass by Dante Moore, pick six a la Sam Darnold against the Lions in his debut game. And look, the Jets won that game. You know, Sam played well after that. And we actually were like, wow, maybe things are going to be different for us. Of course, we know how that went. But man, that was so disappointing, because even if you're not the biggest Dante Moore fan, you prefer Mendoza, or you don't want the Jets to even take a quarterback, you want optionality, and you want teams to fall in love with Moore if the Jets don't. And him playing poor now kind of soured a lot of Jet fans on what he is as an NFL prospect and whether or not they should take him at 2. We do have some news in regarding to that. It's being reported that Dylan Raiola, who is the Nebraska quarterback, is transferring to Oregon. He would not transfer there unless he knows he's going to be the starting quarterback, which seems to indicate that Dante Moore will declare for the draft. He has till Wednesday to make that decision, since Oregon has been eliminated. But it feels like the signs are there that Moore will declare. So, Frankie, I'll start with you. What was your reaction watching Mendoza versus Moore? And obviously from a Jet standpoint, with the Jets draft Dante Moore.
Man, I love me some Fernando Mendoza, man. I really do. I think he would fit so damn well here. I think him and Tanner Engstrand, I think, would be able to scheme up some things and get that ball down the field. He's a big boy in the pocket. He likes to get the ball out early. He goes through his reads and he progresses good enough. I think sometimes he can delay his progressions a little bit and lock onto the first read, but he knows where he wants to go. You can tell he puts the time in. Dante Moore, to me, for me personally, I think he's got all the traits. Probably has a better arm in a vacuum than Mendoza. It's got a little more zip to it. Similar to CJ Stroud and how that ball comes out. But I think he's got a lot of other things that he's going to need to work on, and we're going to need to develop him if he were to come here. He's going to have to learn how to progress when he's facing a blitz. I think sometimes when things aren't smooth and the game plan's not there, I think Dante Moore sometimes struggles a little bit. He does make the mistakes that you saw, like that pick six on the first play of the game. He will give you those once in a while. And I just think for us, I don't want a developmental project at quarterback. I really don't. I want a kid that can come in and compete in the offseason to take that starting job week 1. Now, that's not to say Dante Moore is not going to be able to do that. I'm sure if we draft him and he comes into this quarterback room, even if we sign a free agent quarterback, I'm sure he'll make a run for that week 1 starting spot. But for him, I don't think that matches his ideal timeline to be successful in the NFL. I think he needs to sit for at least half a season, if not a full season. I think he needs that Jordan Love treatment. And people compare him to CJ Stroud. Listen, CJ Stroud might have benefited if he were to sit too. He sort of came onto the scene and was awesome. And then as the tape got out, you saw him take a little bit of regress a bit in year 2. So sometimes it's worth it for a quarterback to sit, learn how to address their weaknesses, because the tendencies get out there to defensive coordinators, and your career is longer because of that. Mendoza, I think, can come in and start right away. I don't think you necessarily need to develop him for too long, but I don't know, Jake. I'm a little bit concerned if we were to take more in terms of how this developmental process with him is going to work out. What are they going to do? Are they going to want to start him right away? I'm sure they are. Woody's not going to want to sit there and just have a kid just, be on the, sidelines while your team's going, 2-6 or whatever they'll probably be. I don't know. It's very interesting. I like him. I don't love him. I love Mendoza, but
yeah, I mean, look, some information that I'm just seeing here. This is from Pete Thamel, who covers college football. So I'm not sure I necessarily buy this, but Thamel posted that Dante Moore, if he returned, Raiola would be willing to back him up for 2026. So I don't know if I buy that necessarily, but I guess this is not a foregone conclusion that because Raiola committed to Oregon, that Moore is definitively declaring for the draft. I still would lean with Moore declaring because, again, financially speaking, if he's still projected to go in the top 5, certainly the top 2, we're talking about close to $60 million guaranteed, $30 million at signing. It's just too much money to pass up. There's too many variables what can happen year over year if he stays in school. So I still lean with Moore being available. And here's where I'm at, Frankie. I don't trust the Jets coaching staff to develop a QB right now. So I don't want to take a guy who might be great if he gets developed second overall. If I'm taking someone second overall, I need a guy that is more of a sure thing. And no one's a sure thing. I understand that. But I need someone who's able to play closer to right away if I'm using a top 3 pick on them. That's just kind of my rule. Like, you don't see top 3 picks sit. And if Dante Moore needs to truly be developed because he's only a 1-year starter, I don't think that's a fit for the Jets. I don't trust the Jets with this head coach who's proven nothing, has hired a terrible coaching staff in his first year, and is now on the hot seat. I don't trust the Jets to be able to properly give Moore the time he needs to develop. So I hope he declares, but I hope the Jets could trade attitude to a different team, stockpile assets, then maybe take a chance on either Ty Simpson later in the first round or take a chance on Trinidad Chambliss in round 2 or take a chance on one of these other quarterbacks. And then the plan would be see how 26 goes, build out the roster, and then with a likely new head coach, new coaching staff, let them with the 3 first-round picks take their big swing at QB. That's like my dream scenario. As I'm talking through this, my fear is Moore declares the Jets take him anyway, and we got to hope that they don't ruin him in a year or don't play him too soon, and then the next head coach in 27 figures it out. Obviously, that's the doomsday scenario, how I'm looking at it. We hope Aaron Glenn figures it out, hires a great staff, and Moore's awesome and could save his job. But we got to be realistic. There's no evidence to suggest the Jets would be capable of doing that. So that's kind of where I'm at in regards to Moore.
I couldn't agree more. I think you broke that down perfectly. I would do exactly what you just said. Moore here to me doesn't make much sense because he needs, I think, like I said, at least half a year to develop. If you look at his tape, he looks really good sometimes, but he looks really bad a lot of other times. And he looks like a quarterback that doesn't have 20 starts underneath his belt, and he doesn't. So Mendoza, he's refined. He's polished. He's ready to go. Moore's more of a fragile prospect. I've been using that word a bunch. I think if you don't develop him right, you might have a Zach Wilson situation on your hands. Just saying. And I hate using that because it's directly relatable to our situation in that we drafted him second overall, but it's similar. But I think if you develop him right, you might have a Jordan Love in 3 years, 2 years. That's the difference there. I agree with you, though. The Jets need to look in the mirror and tell themselves, do we believe in this coaching staff to develop this kid? The answer to that is probably no. You have to be basically high to think that Aaron Glenn and that staff's going to be able to develop this guy. Unless you bring in a premier quarterback coach, and I love Tanner Engstrand. Some people don't. I think the jury's still out probably on what kind of OC he is. Play design and play calling are 2 different things, by the way. I think Tanner does a great job at play design. I think he struggles a bit with the actual play calls during a game. But they need to make a decision, Jake. And if the answer is no, we don't have full trust in this, you do have 3 first-rounders in 2027. There's no need to try to microwave success here in a year and figure out how this thing's going to just happen in 1 year, especially around the quarterback. Bring in a veteran, and I agree with you. I'd go after Trinidad Chambliss or Ty Simpson, a late day 2, early day 3, assuming they last there. The Jets, we have 44. We don't have a third. So it's probably going to have to be that 44th pick. 33rd, the 33rd overall pick is pretty high, but hey, quarterback is a premium position. So I wouldn't mind looking at both of those picks as being a place to get a quarterback versus trying to make this thing just work with more because we don't have a quarterback. We don't have a system either on offense.
There's no evidence that the Jets could put Dante Moore in a position to be successful. People will say, well, they have an offensive line and they have Garrett Wilson, but it's so coaching driven. We see this. Again, look around the league. Look at the quarterbacks that have had success and look who their coaches are. You just don't see Joe Burrows walk into the league and be able to cover for bad coaches. And Dante Moore is not the level of prospect that Burrow was. So I think we'd be setting ourselves up for failure. And my fear would be if they took Moore at 2, it would stop them from potentially taking another quarterback in 2027 because they invested the number 2 pick into Dante Moore. And again, I just don't have any faith in this coaching staff. So I would not take Moore. You almost like, as sick as this is, part of me as a fan, this is me talking as a fan, not as like someone trying to analyze the team. As a fan, I don't want him to even declare, so they can't take him. They can't even be tempted to do it. As an analyst, you want him to declare so you could have optionality and make the best decision for your organization. And maybe if the Jets don't take Moore, someone else would want him and you could get, a trade worked up and get more assets and build your team. It's a very tricky spot because I'm not out on Moore because he played poorly and his team got killed against an elite, maybe all-time great Indiana team when it's all said and done. But again, he's made 19 career starts. The history of guys who have started that little and were successful is not great. Like, again, we're talking about names like Mitch Trubisky, Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, Trey Lance, Anthony Richardson. Like, the last guy that started this few games and was actually like awesome was Cam Newton. I don't know if Dante Moore is Cam Newton. Like, I don't see it.
Yeah, and Cam Newton was an actual dual threat quarterback to the nth degree. I mean, there was not many quarterbacks coming out of college that had his skill set. Still to this day, if you look back at how good, and Cam Newton was awesome in the NFL. When he went 15-1 that year, got them to the Super Bowl, could have won that game too. So yeah, that's the outlier right there.
How do you feel about Simpson? Because he's going to be the other trendy option. I do think he's going to be a first-round pick, if not more. I mean, is Ty Simpson in play at 2 in your mind? By the time we get to April, is he going to, be able to play himself through the pre-draft process here to skyrocket that high? I mean, is he in play with the Colts pick? What's your view on Ty Simpson as a prospect?
I think he's in play with the Colts pick for sure. I struggle with Ty Simpson with one thing. If you're making a living off of being an intermediate passer, but you're not extremely accurate as an intermediate passer, and you're not bringing other things, I struggle to find myself really falling in love with you as a prospect. Ty Simpson, when he gets cooking in the intermediate, he's great. He finds throwing lanes. He can read defenses well. Alabama's run game was awful this year for their standard. They really had nobody back there to help him out. They couldn't run play action, but he wasn't accurate enough. The ball would sail on him. He would underthrow guys. He'd overthrow guys. He put out hospital balls out there. Something's off with his game. He's another one that I think would benefit sitting for a year somewhere. I don't see the special traits with him. He's kind of like a Drew Brees kind of prospect in a way. Like, if you're going to make your living being an intermediate underneath passer, you better be extremely accurate doing that often, more often than not. And I found myself watching him some games. He's just not accurate enough. But that could be a thing with mechanics. That could be a thing that they didn't have a great running game, so defenses were sort of shined back a bit post-snap. I'm not in love with Ty Simpson, though, Jake. I don't think Ty Simpson here is going to solve our problems. Look at the quarterbacks that we have to deal with. We got this juggernaut now in the Patriots with Drake May that just popped up after a year. I don't know where the hell these guys came from, but they look like one of the better teams in football. Obviously, the Bills are one of the best teams in football. The Jets got to get someone with some juice, man. That word's been thrown around a bit. They got to get someone with juice. I like this Trinidad Chambliss kid, I think. I think he just brings a dynamic to what the quarterback position is and what this quarterback room needs that I think would be super interesting. Reminds me a lot of like when Russell Wilson got there in Seattle. Now he's trying to go back though, Trinidad Chambliss. They're in some legal issue now. He might not even come out. I think he will. I think they're going to deny him that 6th year, but it's not even a certainty that he is going to come out. But
well, they denied him, and now he's appealing it again to try and yeah. I mean, look, he's in play. I would say Simpson, I think, is a first-round pick. So the Jets would have to decide: can we get him at 16 with the Colts pick, or would we have to move up? Because there's a lot of quarterback needing teams that pick before the Jets would pick again at 16. So you might have to package that Colts pick and one of your second rounders to try and move up to get Ty Simpson. You know, you look at the draft order here. Raiders will take Mendoza. Let's say the Jets don't take a quarterback at 2. So let's for the sake, let's say Moore's in the draft. Someone else will take Moore. Let's say Arizona takes him. After that, Cleveland could be in play for Simpson. I think if you're realistic, I gotta pull up like the full draft order here to get the 11 through 15 teams here. But here are some other teams that maybe could be in play. Miami certainly at 11. The Rams have the Falcons pick at 13, and who knows what Matthew Stafford's future is. Maybe they want to plan for his retirement, or they know he only has a year left, whatever. I mean, the Lamar situation's worth following with the Ravens at 14, Tampa at 15, and then you're worried about teams even behind the Jets trying to maybe move up. Pittsburgh can move up maybe for Ty Simpson. So, again, you probably, gun to my head, would have a chance to get him at 16. I don't think it's crazy for any Jet fan to mock, let's say, Carnell Tate at 2 or Reuben Bain at 2 or whoever, and then Simpson at 16 for the Jets, Frankie. But you're risking it because if that's your plan for quarterback and you don't get him, what do you do then?
I know. The sad thing with Ty Simpson is the second half of the year kind of screwed him a bit. He was on fire the first half of the football season. He looked really good. And then the second half, things sort of, fell off the wagon, man, a little bit for him. He just wasn't making his reads. He was, throwing interceptions. He wasn't really throwing for the same amount of yards that he was in the first half. I mean, he was averaging almost 270, 280 yards a game early on, and then that sort of tailed off a bit. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is at 2 now. If Dante Moore does go back, let's say, or even if he comes out, but let's say he goes back for all intents and purposes, he goes back. 2 is either a trade down situation. A team would have to want to trade up, or you're going to have to look at probably one of these edge players. Getting a wide receiver is a bit early there, but it's not impossible, or it's not, terrible in terms of draft capital, considering the draft as a whole. You probably will have a team that wants an edge player, wants one of those kids. So I could see that, but wouldn't you want one of them also if you're at 2? So yeah, it'll be interesting, but yeah, man, we're in this quarterback dilemma again. The good thing is we do have 3 first rounders in 27, and I hate bringing that up, but hey, that draft will probably be better when it comes to quarterbacks. There are kids in this draft, though, late that I think could be interesting. Obviously, Drew Aller, people like John Mateer is another interesting prospect. I just like his game a lot. I don't know how he's going to translate, but he's got some spunk to him. He's got that juice, quote unquote, smaller quarterback, but he can let it rip. Carson Beck's been playing really well. Kind of a backup only option.
Could Nussmeier get back in the conversation? People will be like, well, he was thought to be a first round guy a year ago, and he'll have a good Senior Bowl, and he'll play well at the combine, and he'll be an option for teams.
Yeah, Klubnik too. They were both kind of right there, 1A, 1B prospect.
That's why I think they're going to take Moore, because they're not guaranteed, this regime, to get their guy in year 3. So that's why if Moore declares, I think they'll take him, even if that's not necessarily the right move for the franchise, because we all could see this coaching staff is ill-equipped to be able to put Dante Moore in a spot where he truly could sit and get the development he would need. I mean, let's play out this scenario. And by the way, before we get more into this quarterback discussion with Frankie V, we are going to give away on the show today a signed Curtis, my favorite Martin helmet. So make sure you enter the raffle. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to raffle away this framed Super Bowl III ticketed collector's item. Today is the anniversary of Super Bowl III, so the raffle will be Super Bowl III themed tomorrow. We have a signed Broadway Joe Namath helmet as the top prize and a replica Joe Namath Super Bowl III ring as our third prize. So make sure you enter the raffle for the Curtis Martin helmet today across both shows, and then the weekly raffle on the show tomorrow. Here's what I was going to bring up. If you do draft Moore, you need to have 2 legitimate veteran options in front of him. You need to basically replicate what the Giants tried to do with Russ and Winston. Like, here's an example. You would need Kirk Cousins and Tyrod Taylor as like the 2 quarterbacks in front of Dante Moore, because you can't go into the year with just Cousins and then Moore, or Marcus Mariota and Moore, and set yourself up where that guy gets hurt and then Moore's playing and he's not ready. There needs to be a buffer where you have 2 legitimate veterans that are in front of Moore, so he does not play until he's truly ready.
I agree. I do. Yeah, the free agent quarterback class is a little bit bare. There's really not much out there if you go through the names.
You're going to sign Malik Willis, Mike Tanenbaum, who I do radio with, and we'll get into that because, oh my God, we had our most contentious Aaron Glenn Jets have a plan debate yet, but he's like he swears by Malik Willis, and I'm just like, I don't know if one, Malik Willis would want to come to the Jets if he has other options, and 2, I'm not convinced Malik Willis, who started like 5 games in his career, is a guy I want to give $40 million to, using the Justin Fields contract model that the Jets now have dug themselves, that hole with that. So that to me is the problem. Like, what is their options if you need a veteran? Glenn needs to try and win games to save his job. And if you have Dante Moore who needs development, what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, listen, Malik Willis played really well this year. He really did. Now, I just always go back to, that Matt LaFleur Packers offense and all those receivers they have and those weapons, and that O-line played really well this year. How much of that had to do with Malik Willis's success? If you're going to take him out of there, you're going to put him, with us on a system that is kind of just figuring it out, what they want to do. I don't know what Malik Willis would do here. His market will be interesting. I mean, if you're going to look at him at like a $30-40 million contract level, maybe it makes sense to a degree, but he might even get more than that. So I don't know. I just don't think he's going to be the savior here necessarily. Like, we need a quarterback that has high upside, but also has a high enough floor that they can play a little bit in 26. I don't see the upside with Malik Willis long term. So you're kind of bringing him in. He might have some good stretches, but we're kind of falling back into this like Justin Fields conversation we had last offseason of what is the longevity with this quarterback? We know what he could do in 6 games in maybe a year, but don't you want someone that can be your, starter for the foreseeable future, or at least compete to be the starter, not someone that's going to come in, play 6 games, maybe get hurt, maybe not work out, then you're on the bench, and then we're kind of stuck again. So I'd rather have something like you're talking about, where it's more systematic in the approach of, we'll have a rookie sit back there, we'll have the veterans kind of duel it out, we'll let the rookie learn and kind of hand the keys off to him. Malik Willis is going to want to go somewhere and be their starter in his eyes for 2 to 3 years. He feels like he's proven himself. I don't think we're the spot, to be honest, but I wouldn't hate the move, to be fair. I don't think, anytime you're investing in a quarterback that no one really knows much about, that sort of splashed onto the scene a bit this year, you're kind of rolling the dice, but I'm down to roll the dice a little bit,
I mean, it just doesn't feel like that's a true fit, but I digress.
It's impossible. I don't know what the fit is, Jake. I don't know with this team. I don't know what the fit is. I never know anymore. I'm like,
it feels like it was Mendoza, because he has the highest floor. He could deal with crap coaching for a year. It won't rattle him, and he'll be fine when they get Kevin O'Connell as the Jet coach in 2027. I had a tweet yesterday about this. Could we just fast forward to 2027 when the Vikings fire O'Connell and he's available for Darren Muji to hire because they were college roommates, and the Jets will finally get an offensive coach? And for the Glenn truthers who love the fact he's a former Jet, boom, check off that on the resume. Kevin O'Connell, famously a third-string quarterback on Hard Knocks in 2010 behind Mark Brunell and Mark Sanchez.
The good old days.
Man,
good old days.
Some super chats here. Let's get into those. We'll get to your calls as well. We have a Curtis Martin signed helmet we're going to raffle away on the show today. I'm going to pin the call-in link. We got Frankie V from U Stadium with us here, and we certainly have a litany of Jet-related topics to continue to discuss. Hexen checks in. If people are out on Moore, how about best player available at 2? Chambliss at 16 or 33. Chambliss, I understand why Jet fans are intrigued by him. He looked awesome in the college football playoff. I don't know if a guy who is barely 6 feet, I think he's listed as 6'1", but we'll see what he actually is when he weighs in at the combine, assuming his medical waiver his appeal is denied and he does declare. I don't know if that's a guy you would take at 16, Frankie. I feel like the earliest you would take a player like Chambliss, and I could be wrong. We know that desperation obviously has these guys go a lot earlier than they probably should. Desperation to me, that aside, I think the earliest he'd be able to play would be that 33rd pick.
Yeah, I agree there. There's one caveat here, though. If he runs at the combine and he runs a 4.440, this conversation might all change. I'm just saying, because he has 4.4-ish speed they're projecting. I've read some scouting reports saying he might go to the combine and run a 4.45, maybe even faster. If he goes to the combine and runs a 4.42 or 4.41, then we're looking at that film a little differently. Then we're thinking about the prospect a little differently. So, yeah, I agree. 16 right now seems way too high. He's a second rounder, in my opinion. Mid to late second rounder, early third. Kind of right there with maybe Simpson's a little bit higher, but I have Chambliss a bit higher than Simpson in my book. For us, I'm saying. But Jake, if he runs in the 4.4s, then you're going to have people thinking, maybe 16 isn't so high after all. I'm just saying, considering the top 15 prospects in this class, Chambliss is really going to be, he really stick out there as like a shining potential star, especially when you need a quarterback. So we'll see.
Super chat from our guy, Cincy Matt. A great supporting cast and a better offensive coordinator can make a decent quarterback look much better. Avoid QB at 2, rebuild the roster, fire Tanner. Again, if they fire Engstrand, it better be because you're guaranteed to get a proven offensive coordinator because you know you're taking a quarterback. Because if you fire Engstrand and he already fired Steve Wilkes, why does Aaron Glenn have a job if he was so awful with his coordinator hires at the 2 most important coordinator hires in year 1? Give him credit for Banjo, but I'm sorry, that is not enough. Special teams is not as important as the DC or the OC, and Banjo can be retained by any head coach they would then bring in. That's how this works. So, like, again, Engstrand to me, giant incomplete. I lean with him not being any good, but I know you and I might differ there. But if he's fired, obviously Glenn should be gone too. But if that's not going to happen, it better be because they have a guarantee someone like Brian Dable or Cliff Kingsbury, someone of that ilk, is taking the job, and they know that they're going to be able to draft a quarterback and feel like that guy's better equipped to develop that player.
Yeah, I'll say this. Obviously, if you have Mike McDaniel there who wants
Right.
to be the OC, why would he want to be the OC here
No
when
chance.
he's getting head coaching interviews? So, yeah, if you guarantee me a guy like that, okay, fine. But Tanner Engstrand, in my opinion, and I'm still sticking to this, and I looked at some of the film, I think he has the potential to be a very good offensive coordinator. I really do. Think about who he had to work with this year at the receiving core, or who he had to work with tight ends when Mason Taylor went down, or Garrett Wilson sitting out for the last, whatever amount of games he did, last 7 games of the season, whatever. The quarterback, too. Look at the quarterbacks he's had to deal with the whole year. It's not easy to scheme up anything. And to his credit, he made A.D. Mitchell look pretty damn good at times, and nobody was really able to get much out of him. Same thing with the other receiver we had there. So there's something to be said about, to me, his play design. I think he's a very good play designer. He just doesn't have the experience as a play caller. I think once he gets more years underneath his belt, I think he'll feel out how to call the right plays at the right time. And I really like Tanner Engstrand. If you have a better option, a more experienced option, yes, I would, entertain the thought there. But I like Tanner Engstrand, man. I think he's a very good coach. I just really do. Not everyone's at fault this year. We want to point. I said this with Brandon from the New York Post Sports when I did a little bit about the quarterbacks. We want to point the finger at everybody. You're at fault. You suck. You suck. You're terrible.
I hate everyone.
Get out of it. Yeah, everyone's garbage. That's not the case. It could be one thing is garbage, and we know what that is. And it just kind of trickles down thereafter. But not every single person connected to this staff or this team this past year is bad. That's not the case. It could be a few bad players there. And I'm talking players as in coaches too, like a few bad elements of this puzzle that's just off. And if you change it, you might have something better. And I don't think Tanner's a bad piece to this puzzle. I really don't. I really have faith in Tanner Engstrand. I want to keep him around. Look at Mike LaFleur now. He's going to start getting head coaching interviews. We scapegoated him at a point, right?
Yep.
He wasn't really the problem. Was his play calling always great? No, it wasn't. But you saw something there. And now he's getting head coaching interviews, and McVay couldn't wait to make him their OC. So let's be patient, I think, when it comes to Tanner. If you look at what he's done, he's creative. He does a lot of what Ben Johnson does. Ben Johnson just takes it to a completely other level, but he's going to learn.
I thought Aaron Glenn learned from Dan Campbell and Bill Parcells and Sean Payton, all these coaches, and the guy is an abomination. So, yeah, I look, fair. I'm not saying that Tanner Engstrand is the worst or I'm completely out on him. I certainly have more confidence in him than I do the head coach, and obviously, even during the year, said he was way better at his job than Steve Wilkes certainly was at his. But my point is, if you're moving forward with Glenn, and they are, then you have to improve the offensive staff if you're going to take Dante Moore at 2, assuming he declares. And Charles London still has a job today. Scott Turner, the senior offensive assistant, whatever he does, he's still employed. Like, where are the coaching improvements coming for the Jets? Because that, to me, is what defines Glenn's offseason. Can he hire qualified assistants? Because we know he doesn't coordinate either side of the ball. We know that he's the rah-rah CEO coach, and the only way that works is if you hire kick-ass coaches and they're really good at their jobs. Like Adam Gase won 7 games his first year because the Greg Williams hire was brilliant for that first year. He turned Jamal Adams into a first-team All-Pro. That defense had no talent besides a couple of players, and they really overachieved and helped the Jets win more games than they should have. Who's that guy for the Jets in 2026 if anyone still is holding out hope it could work with Aaron Glenn going forward?
Yeah. Jake, I don't know the answer to that. I do know this, though. If Aaron Glenn doesn't get a really good staff around him, I don't think Aaron Glenn's going to stick around for that much longer. And that's a big part of his job, because what did he tell us? He said, I'm not coaching the defense and I'm not coaching the offense. He said both of those things. He is not coaching either side. He coaches, he's a CEO. He's in the middle. He's going to get everything tightened up here.
Just don't let go of the rope.
That's our game plan. We just hold on to rope.
If he doesn't get quality coaches and coordinators around him, he won't be successful. Now, there's something to be said about, well, why do you need all these great coaches around you to be great for you to be successful? Shouldn't you be able to do some things yourself? Which is why I really went sour on Glenn towards the end of the season. When you fire Steve Wilkes and then you give the keys to this Chris Harris guy who was out to lunch. I mean, he didn't know what was going on out there. That's when that stretch of awful games actually started happening. I mean, you got to get in the room, and you have this interception streak. You got to get in the room and stop that. That's embarrassing for your resume. We're going to be bringing up this stat forever. They're going to be using this forever time about 17 games without an interception. And Kaz brought this up. It's going to begin again next year. Game 1 will be 18 and 19.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just saying the streak isn't over yet. It's your responsibility. So, yeah, I don't know who the right assistants are, Jake. I'm not going to pretend like I do. But Glenn, a big part of him keeping his job here is to make sure that those are good hires or great hires, because he'll be out of here if not.
And we have to defend our field goal protection championship next season as well.
The field goal team. Last year we had 3 blocks. This year, I mean, we had no blocks.
That's what it's all about, baby. Protecting our field goal protection title. Man, Curly in the house. He's in our raffle for 2. Says, props to you, Jake, for making Tanny cry on radio. Glenn got the job because they had a relationship. Can't believe he had the audacity to say other teams are envious of the Jets. What a joke. For those who haven't heard it, it's on my YouTube channel. Mike Tanenbaum versus Jake Asman, part 1000. That's what happens when you do a radio show with the man who hired Aaron Glenn for 4 hours every single Sunday during one of the worst Jet seasons ever. But I've started posting some of these on the YouTube channel because I'm tired of people being like, oh, do you say this to Tanenbaum? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And Mike has every right to his opinion, as do I. Peter Castro says, great job on ESPN. Peter with a great call yesterday into the show. The callers were letting Mike T have it. Jet fans are disgusted with what we're going through right now, being gaslit again into thinking we have to go through another year of Aaron Glenn. I mean, anyone who watched the playoffs this weekend, like, it's just depressing. Again, I go back to what we led the show with, Frankie. Like, we are so far away from any of these teams. It's like just downright sad.
Dude, it's crazy, man. The level of football being played this past weekend, we are so far from it. We really are. But the difference is you saw some of these teams just pop out of nowhere over the last year. Look at Jacksonville. They had won, 4 games a year before? And they're right there, man. New England, look at what happened after they fired Gerard Mayo. Things can change if you're able to notice your deficiencies and address them.
Look at the Saints,
stubborn.
right? Like let's not even use a playoff team. Look at the Saints. They hired Kellen Moore. The thought process with them was they're the worst team in football going into the year. That's what everyone said. They had the highest odds to get the number 1 pick. People said their team is terrible. They hired a good coach who was able to take a second-round quarterback, and by the end of the year, they were playing good football, and the arrow was pointed up. The Jets, and you've been all over this from the beginning, and I give you credit, they completely neglected drafting any quarterback this past year. They could have had Tyler Shuck. They could have had Jackson Dart if they wanted to. They could have taken a chance on Shedeur Sanders. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say I wanted Shedeur. I didn't. I didn't think he fit with the idea of moving on from Rodgers because he's a celebrity quarterback. So you bring in Shedeur. I didn't think that made sense. But my point is, like, just because we really like the Armand Membu pick doesn't mean that ultimately, like, that was the right decision, or we like the Mason Taylor pick doesn't mean that was the right decision. Again, there were ways for the Jets to not have one of the worst seasons in franchise history and one of the worst seasons in the modern era of football. There were ways to do that. And if you're a head coach and you're overseeing that, that's grounds for being fired after a year. Aaron Glenn was one of the most obvious one-and-done scenarios we have ever seen, and he survived, and he will go into year 2 on the hottest of seats, which terrifies me now, given how the Jets are going to try and navigate this offseason, where they do have resources, but you don't want to be reckless with how you build the team for 1 year trying to save your job.
Yeah, man, 100%. And, dude, what about this draft pick that we all were talking about all offseason? Arian Smith. Remember when Aaron Glenn said, oh, I thought he couldn't catch? Like, he said that to the media.
Yeah, I forgot. And you know what? I need to add that to my list of things that Glenn just completely gaslit us with. Now, Arian Smith, you guys said he couldn't catch. For a guy who says we're going to move in silence, we're going to tune out the outside noise, he hears everything that is said about him and his team. Everything.
Yeah, and that's a bad sign to me.
Yep.
Like, I don't like that from my head coach, especially someone that wants to attack this thing like a Bill Parcellsian coach. Like, I don't like to hear that crap, honestly. I don't like to know that you're scrolling wherever or getting information about what people are saying about you on social media. That's not really something that you want to see from a guy who prides himself on being, disciple of Bill Parcells. With that said, I mean, why didn't we? I mean, someone should ask him, why didn't we give Arian Smith more looks? The guy had 7 catches the whole season for 52 yards. You were getting blown out at the end of games. You couldn't have put him in and thrown him a few deep balls or something.
You want to know why? Because he's unplayable. He won't be in the NFL.
He's a gunner.
Year. Yeah, like he'll never. His only role is special teams because he's fast. That's it. That's why you don't take a guy who some thought either should go undrafted or was a 7th-round talent. You don't take him in the 4th round just because you panicked after Kyle Williams was already drafted. Is that the guy's name that New England took, the speed guy the Jets apparently wanted? And then they're like, oh, we need a speed guy because we're trying to copy the Lions. We need our Jamison Williams. Like, that's why you don't just take someone because you're reaching. Like, that's exactly why they say trust your board within reason.
Yeah. And you look at receivers that are successful late-round picks, they tend to go to places that have some system offensively or maybe an offensive-minded head coach. Look at what Parker Washington did yesterday with the Jaguars. Parker Washington's a 5'10", 6th-round pick out of Penn State. Look at the game he had. He's been incredible for them in the second half of the season. So we got to get some guys in here, man, that can not only ball, but we need to have a coach at some point that's able to put these guys in a position to make plays all over the place. Did you even see Jacksonville's defense trying to strip the ball carrier every single time the second defender, third comes in. They're trying to rip that ball right out. They're being aggressive towards the football. They know that their offense is going to be able to put up points. They're trying to force turnovers. They were one of the best teams this year in football at doing that. So the mentality's got to change. Unfortunately, I don't believe in this head coach to make it change. But again, life is crazy. Maybe he comes up with something next year and he changes his approach a little bit, because whatever he thought he was going to do this year completely backfired on him. Now he has the picks, and now he's got to make those picks worth it. That's it. There's no more. I mean, we have these 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. Kaz broke this down. We had the same situation a few years ago, and Zach Wilson was the wrong pick that kind of ruined the trajectory of those picks with AVT and Brees and Garrett and Sauce. But you got the quarterback. When you get the quarterback wrong, that offsets a lot of the positives that you did drafting wise. And that's something that this team's got to get right. They got to figure out the quarterback. And Aaron Glenn, at this point, he's probably going to be the main decision maker there. I know that scares the hell out of you, Jake. But
what do you mean? I loved Aaron Glenn giving this very insightful, detailed answer to a great question on why any Jet fan should think you're qualified to develop a QB.
Given your defensive background,
Yep.
and given the way your quarterbacks performed this year, why should people feel confident that you have the infrastructure in place to pick a quarterback and develop him properly?
You know what? That's a good question. And we're going to exhaust everything that we can to make sure that we surround our quarterbacks now, and if we get any quarterbacks in the future, right, with the guys that's going to help them. And then again, that's a whole part of, making sure that we evaluate everything that's going on, make sure we have the right people here that can help the quarterback. And I'm not saying that we don't have that. That's something.
What a pathetic answer. He's a joke of a head coach, an absolute joke.
And I know it's hard to say. Just trust me, have faith in what we're doing.
Joke. He's an absolute joke. He cannot talk in X's and O's. He cannot talk strategy. He has nothing he could say. He utterly bullshitted his way into this job by saying things Woody Johnson wanted to hear, like we're going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, like we're going to cut down on the penalties, we're going to be disciplined. I come from Parcells. Trust me, bro. Like he said, he sold Woody a bill of goods. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. We're going to clean up the penalties. We're going to be great in the last 4 minutes of each half. Everything he said in the interview, he blatantly did not do. And he has no ability to develop a quarterback. And all you need to know, the reason why I kill the Jets and him specifically for the Fields signing is not just the contract, which is an albatross, but everything you say about Justin Fields. You can't say this and then just be like, didn't work. It was a lottery ticket. A $30 million investment that's now going to count $20 million in dead cap this year is not just a lottery ticket. You also said he's our guy. He's never been coached properly, which is insulting to Mike Tomlin. You didn't draft any other quarterbacks. Again, no competition for Justin Fields. You just handed him the job. And when you're asked before you even signed him, what is an Aaron Glenn quarterback? And you say this.
What do you look for in a quarterback? Like, what's an Aaron Glenn quarterback?
A winner.
And you get 9 games of Justin Fields, who has the worst winning percentage of any quarterback who started the amount of games he started in his career. Look it up in NFL history. No QB has a worse winning percentage that started the amount of games Fields has started than him. That you don't get to now pick a quarterback second overall. That's why if Moore declares, I'm terrified they were going to screw this up and ruin him.
Yeah, and let's not kid ourselves. $30 million guaranteed. That's not chump change here for a quarterback, especially like Justin Fields. Fields, to me, I was saying it. He's a $6 to $8 million a year quarterback. You might give him 2 years. They gave him $40 million with $30 million guaranteed. They didn't want to draft a quarterback. They clearly thought that they were going to get something out of this kid that nobody else was able to do before them, and it just blew up in their face. On top of it, this is what also ticked me off. Outside of them not having a competition at quarterback, you can't tell your team, we're going to compete everywhere. At center, you better watch out, Tippmann. We're going to compete everywhere, but not at the quarterback position because this guy is apparently so good. What really ticked me off, not only that, what really ticked me off, Jake, is Justin Fields told you at the end of the year, I'm not playing.
He quit.
Kidding me? I'm going to run the Wildcat? And hell no. What kind of question is that? I'll be your emergency quarterback. Don't worry if you need one. I mean, that's like a slap in your face. And the messaging And I don't know what other players think about that, but the messaging with that whole situation just reeks of this coach kind of got walked on. Fields walked all over him, man. It was embarrassing. There wasn't much written on it. I don't know why. There was people didn't want to talk to Fields about it, and it wasn't really talked about much. But that whole situation, if you really dive into it, that was not a pretty situation. Did not look good for Glenn by any stretch.
Nope. Hawk nailed it. Glenn said he picked Fields because he had trouble game playing against him. He did say that. I got to find that receipt. Bang Mateo, Raiola willing to redshirt and sit in 1 year at Oregon. We talked about this earlier. I'm not buying it, but we will see. Ant Banks has finally received my Corbett poster and t-shirt. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate you. Ant, thanks for your support. Means a lot. Glad everything arrived safely from your raffle wins. PBM says if Vegas is willing to deal Mendoza for a number 2 and 16, or our number 2 and our 2 seconds, are we going to do it? Or if they want number 2, 6. Yeah, I mean, I would do that if that's what it would take. I think it would cost more than that. If the Raiders are as sold on Mendoza as it feels like the general consensus now is that he's the top dog, they're going to want more than I think just 2, 16, and 31, right? I mean, I think, and that might sound crazy to move up one spot, but there might not be a price if Tom Brady and company love Fernando Mendoza and think he's, the next great quarterback in this league.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say there is it's definitely going to be one of the first rounders in 2027. There's a situation here where the Raiders do go into this draft with their new head coach, and they might not be that in love with Mendoza where they're going to want to just put all their eggs in the Mendoza basket, and they're going to look at the Jets and say, hey, you guys like Mendoza? Come up, but give us some draft capital in 2027 because we're really rebuilding this thing. And they might be looking to that draft to find their quarterback. That's not impossible. Right? That's not impossible. It's not probable, but it's not impossible. And I think, yeah, I would call the Raiders. The Jets have to call the Raiders and say, hey, what do you guys want for 1? You want to have this conversation? Now, they're not going to be able to call until they hire a coach. So I think it'll be telling who they hire in terms of what they want to do there. If they bring in an offensive guy, they're probably going to get the quarterback. If they bring in a defensive guy, maybe they want to just rebuild the culture and they might wait another year. So we'll see. But I'll say this. Mendoza's not some sure thing first overall pick, by the way.
Well, no one really is. Yeah. It still comes down to coaching. Look at Trevor Lawrence. He was as sure of a thing as ever. It took him 5 years to start playing like that guy.
True. Yeah. But I don't even think Mendoza, I mean, if you put Mendoza in some other draft class, he's not going to be your clear-cut number 1 overall pick. Because that system at Indiana, it's like a rigid system. They like to run the football. He's not really going through his progressions that much. He's kind of locking on who the first read is, and maybe he'll check down to the second read, which is fine. I'm totally fine with that. So that's not dissing Mendoza. But overall, if you're looking at him as a prospect, he's not like some can't miss that there's no way in hell the Jets have a shot at him. Things can change. He's got another game left too. People remember what the most recent game is a lot of times. So we'll see how that works out.
Jesse, super chat. Great to see you yesterday. Great time. Thank you. Jesse, great to see you yesterday, man. I'm glad that you were able to come out to our event. Again, thanks to everyone who showed up at T-Squared yesterday for a watch party that didn't feature the Jets. We were chanting Jags, Jags. So it was almost fitting that the Jags lost in devastating fashion, but fun time, great turnout. Thanks to T-Squared for hosting. We'll do more of these, and we're working on some stuff for the off season. Big meetups being planned. We'll update people on a draft party as well. Putting it all together now that we are fully in off season mode. Fighter Jet says no Dante Moore. Too much of a risk. I prefer Chambliss in round 2 or 3. You're not married to him, so you could take another quarterback with the right head coach after Glenn is fired. Well, any quarterback you don't take in round 1. You're not married to. In fact, even if they took Simpson at 16, I don't think they necessarily would be married to Ty Simpson if they went out there and had a top 3 pick in 27 and they could get one of the better quarterbacks if it actually lives up to the hype. You take Moore at 2, you almost might be married to him. That's the concern. You make that level of investment, you might be committed to him. And I don't love the idea of being committed to a guy that needs to sit for a full year. I don't love that. If I felt better about the infrastructure the Jets had, I would feel differently. They might just do it anyway because that's how this works. But part of me is I hope he stays in school so they're not even tempted with that decision, as sad as that is.
Yeah, the general rule of thumb there is if they're drafted in the first half of the first round, you're gonna get married to them. If it's in the second half of the first round, you have a little bit more flexibility there. 16 would literally be right there in between. But yeah, I agree with you, Jake. I think 16, you're not selling your fan base that this is definitely the guy, but it's someone you're going to want to play. And you're going to want to give him some starts, and preferably in year one if you can. I think Simpson is somebody that if he had a good running game, which Alabama, believe it or not, had a really bad running game this year.
And their receivers dropped everything.
They did. Yeah. So there's something there. I think when you see him in shorts out there, Ty Simpson at the combine, and this stuff matters. It really does. How clean are you? How do you get those outs? You know, how do you get the ball out on those deep outs on the sideline? How accurate are you? They're telling a lot of times. People loved Bo Nix at the combine, I remember years ago, and that propelled his status a bit. We'll see what Ty Simpson does at the combine, and with Chambliss too. We'll see what he ends up doing there. Again, that 40 time is going to be something for him. That's going to be, if he can run that 4.4, Jake, there's going to be murmurs about him going in the first round and maybe even higher than we think. So just look out for that.
Curtis Martin signed helmets, the raffle prize. I don't think we have a single gifted membership at this point in the show. So I'm taking matters in my own hands. I'm going to gift 5 memberships right now. You know what? I'm going to wait a little bit. Let's get people a chance to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on in their settings that they want to be eligible to receive a gifted membership. And I'll enter you in the raffle across our shows today for a signed Curtis Martin helmet. Couple super chats here, and then we'll say goodbye to Frankie, and I'm going to stick around for all of your call. Whoops, hit the wrong button. For all of your calls.
Get rid of me early. Unbelievable.
Also, programming note, Brandon Tierney will join me today, former FAN host, big Jets fan. He'll join me at 3:30 today, so we'll go live with BT and talk some Jets with him. I've known Brandon for a long time, so looking forward to getting him on the YouTube channel. Bang writes in, Frank, the 2027 rookie QB won't be ready for week 1 either. His point is all rookies need development, which is true. But my pushback to Mateo, and I'll let you respond, Frankie, is that there's different levels of development. Brady Cook needs far more development than Fernando Mendoza does. Like there's different things you can evaluate based on a quarterback's ability, yes, and then also how many games have they played in college that can give you an idea on how much development or seasoning a QB might need.
Yeah, he's saying that a quarterback that we draft this year won't be ready for 2027.
He's saying,
is that what he's saying?
Well, no, he's saying anyone they would take in 27 would also not be ready for week 1. He wants all quarterbacks to sit.
Well, listen, in a perfect world, yes, you do want all your quarterbacks to sit because the more time that they get to sit there and study and look at the speed of the game, the more confident they get in their approach. But there's some quarterbacks that don't really need that. Some guys can just come in and they have it really all together, and they're not going to get beaten down mentally more so than not, where their confidence isn't going to waver too much. Well, they'll be able to develop. You're going to go through growing pains, but you'll develop on your own accord without destroying your confidence. That's the thing. Every quarterback is different. Every single one. Dante Moore, to me, I don't trust him yet in year 1. If you put him in there, he could crash and burn. I don't see that situation with Mendoza, but 2027 class has a bunch of quality quarterback prospects that have gotten a lot of starts underneath their belt. I think it'll be a little different, but every quarterback's different.
Robbie Sabo in the house. Never married, but it hinges on the organization having the foresight and versatility to pivot quickly, which, yeah, that's the concern.
Yeah. I mean, I agree there. It's just when you draft a quarterback, it's difficult or it's not common that we drafted one this year and we think that can be the guy. And we're going to do the same thing the next year. And we're going to do the same thing the next year. Like people throw out what Bill Parcells said, you keep drafting a quarterback until you got one. Teams don't really do that. I mean, like how many teams in round 1 every year, or round 2 even, are drafting quarterbacks? It's not that.
I think that
common.
was Ron Wolf, by the way. I don't even think Parcells had like certain things he'd look for, and he didn't even always abide by his own rules for what he would look for.
No, not at all. No. Yeah, totally. Parcells just kind of talked about whatever was on his mind out of his ass a little bit. But I don't listen. The Jets should take that approach, though. I want them to go into this year, draft a quarterback day 1 or day 2, and day 3 if they want to look there. And do it again next year if you have the picks. It's the most important position in football. Look at the quarterbacks that are playing right now in the playoffs. Is there a team with a bad one? Really? Not really. Every single team has a quality quarterback. So It matters. Quarterback matters. It's the most important position in sports. So just get the quarterback right. These 5 first-rounders, if you gotta miss on a few, but you're going to eventually find an average starter, it's worth it, in my opinion.
Frankie, you're the man. Looking forward to doing more of these.
You to go, Jake. I'll see you soon, man. Thanks.
Frankie V from U Stadium checking in. Gonna get to your calls coming up. Let me get caught up on some super chats. Swamp Ranger writes in, biggest mistake was trying to tank with Tyrod against Atlanta. Jets need their QB drafted and developed. No more band-aids, retreads. Go 1-16 in 2026. Number 1 pick. It's easier said than done. These guys have jobs. They're trying to win. They're trying to save their jobs. You can't just go 1-16. You can't just press a button and go 1-16. This is not how it works. The big fella checks in. To me, the player with the most to gain or lose in the championship game is Carson Beck. He does well or even wins, he'll fly up the board, possibly even surpass Ty Simpson. What say you? I just don't think he has the physical attributes to really fly up the board, big fella. Like, watch Carson Beck try and throw downfield. Obviously, if he plays well and they win, it will help him. I don't know if he'll pass Ty Simpson, though. I think teams really like Ty Simpson. Joe Blowett and Robbie Sabo are very high on Ty Simpson. They watch the film. They see the circumstances he was thrown into, the bad O-line, no running game, the drops. NFL teams evaluate all that. When Ty Simpson was trying to figure out should he declare or not, he said that every team that he spoke to, every GM he spoke to, said that they had a first-round grade on him. I don't think you could say that about Carson Beck. Peter Castro says, Jake, great job slapping Tanenbaum around. Well, thanks for watching, Peter. Flight Boy says, so how long are we going to cry about Glenn? Is it crying about Glenn or being honest about him? You tell me. Because I think there's Jet fans who will wave the pom-poms no matter what. Flight Boy is what we call a Glenn bootlicker. I don't think it's crying about him to be critical. Look at the amount of coaches that are available right now. And the Jets are running it back with a guy we all know has no chance to be successful here. Oh, Jake, how could you say that? Because I have eyes. We don't need to pretend. Every metric backs up that this guy is a failure and will be as a head coach. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's so much egg on my face I suffocate from it. But I won't be. And that's the bottom line. So I don't think it's crying about it. We'll continue to talk about the Jets because their decision to take a quarterback at 2, if you don't believe in the head coach, there's a healthy debate on should maybe you just trade out and build the roster. Wouldn't that make more sense? And let the actual head coach that will be here in 27, hopefully for the love of God, an offensive guy, properly make that decision on the quarterback. That's the conversation. If you want to call it crying, that's fine. There's plenty of other shows you can turn to that will give you the Jets are awesome, man. They can do no wrong. We didn't go 3-14 and break an NFL record for losing by 23 or more 5 straight weeks and go 0-6 against the AFC East, losing by an average of 20 points per game, which is the second worst all time in a division. That didn't happen. We didn't start 0-7. That didn't happen. We didn't have a head coach who lied about everything he would change. That didn't happen. It was all part of the plan. If you want that, I'm sure there's other shows that can give you that. You won't find that here. Christopher Salazar in the raffle for 1. Thank you, Christopher. Jason Picker in the house. He's in the raffle for 1. That's our guy, Jason in Jerusalem, checking in. Oh, yeah. We are caught up on the Super Chats. Let's get into your calls. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. 1 game to go, people. Rodgers and the Steelers against Stroud and the Texans tonight. The line I'm seeing is 3 right now. Wouldn't surprise me if it gets to 3.5 by the time we get to kickoff. I always bet Tomlin as an underdog, and I'm rooting for the Steelers. I think it'd be great to see Rodgers win a playoff game. But I got love for the Texans as well. I know a bunch of Texans fans still tune into the show because I did radio down there for 6 years. So just rooting for a great game tonight. But if you're going to bet on it, do it with FanDuel Sportsbook. Bino with a super chat. Jacob, when you told my T, don't you interrupt me. I lost my bleep laughing. I was in my car yelling, my man, Jake. Yeah, I mean, I edited it down like the full like hour and a half or hour or whatever we spent on it. But I never really interrupted him. He kept interrupting me. That's why I finally just had it. But I respect Mike. Again, it's all, you know, it's all love at the end of the day. Like, we each have our own opinions, and it's talk radio. You don't have to agree. You know, that's the bottom line. Mike's a good guy. I'll never say anything bad about Mike as a person. I think he's a good guy. It's just we obviously fundamentally disagree about Aaron Glenn, which is okay. More of your calls, or by more, I should say, let's get to your calls. Doc Jet fan will start us off today. What's up, Doc?
Good morning, Jake.
Hello, Doc.
So listen, I was listening to your Mike T interview in total. It was, I have one request. If I'm ever lucky enough to get my own caller ID animation, I would like in one panel for Mike to be discussing the state of the Jets, and the other panel, my head exploding, because it was really difficult to listen to. So, Mike T preaches, don't confuse results with the process. So give me 2 minutes to talk about his process and why it's completely wrong from an organizational standpoint. When Muji and Aaron Glenn were both hired initially, you could tell from the press conference that Aaron Glenn was going to be working as the boss, basically, and the sidekick would have to answer to him, which is unusual given that Glenn has no experience in personnel. But okay, so be it. Now, I want to take you back to last week when the Jets are all given their garbage bags to clean out their lockers, and every team has exit interviews, right? They want to get a feel from the players, what they thought about the season. The key question being, what do you think about Aaron Glenn? What do you think about him as a man, as his leadership, his coaching ability, et cetera? Who exactly is asking those questions? Because if it's they're not going to give Aaron Glenn a straight answer. And if they're talking to Muji, which would be typical of what most franchises would do, he works for Glenn. So are they going to give him an answer, or are they going to get honest answers about, whether Aaron Glenn should stay on as coach next year? I think not. It's not going to be Woody. The Athletic article that they have no confidence in him building culture or him being, a good owner. So any organization takes as much intake on exit interviews as they can. The Jets are not set up to do that properly with Muji working for Glenn. So that would be my first point.
Well, I agree with you. The one thing I will point out is that it did feel like they were on much more equal footing at that press conference than what it originally was. I know a bunch of reporters who were there noticed that that's how it felt. And I know fans noticed it too. Even Muji's body language when Glenn was talking, I don't think the Jets are as aligned as what they're trying to sell yet. There's no way Darren Muji, who comes from working for a great organization, a great coach who has say on personnel, and Sean Payton, there's no way he watched Aaron Glenn through year one and goes, yeah, this guy's going to be a good coach. I don't buy that. I think Muji's actually smart, and he's got to see the writing through the wall. But maybe I'm giving him too much credit. I don't know. But I think your points are spot on, Doc.
The other thing, too, is that Mike T stated that the head coach position is a developmental position.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he's a data guy, Jake. I mean, the data would suggest otherwise. I mean, reference this year, Liam Cohen, that wasn't developmental. Ben Johnson, not development. 2022, Brian Daboll goes to the Giants. He was in the playoffs his first year. Same with Kevin O'Connell, who took a last place Vikings team, and they won. They won their division. Mike McDaniel, that was his first year in 2022.
How about the coaches Mike hired with the Jets? He went to the playoffs with Herm, Mangini, Rex, all in year one. And for Adam Gase, who he hired in Miami, guess what? Gase made the playoffs his first year with that team too. So again, Mike will come up with anything to try and defend Glenn, but it directly contradicts previous statements he made, such as the Jets would get better as the year goes on. If the Jets in December could beat the Jets of September, you will see real progress. You'll see a foundation being laid. They'd be great at the end of halves. They'd cut down the penalties. They'd be smart, disciplined. Everything he said we'd get. They're going to be Dan Campbell East. None of it came true. So the only thing he could point to is they have a plan. It was a bad year. He minimizes how bad the year was because that's what he has to say. They have a plan. You can't just say they have a plan. There's no evidence they know how to execute any plan when year one looks as bad as it did.
Totally agree. A troubling thing that's going on with Woody, take a look at the last 7 head coaches. They all have been first-time head coaches with no coaching experience. So I don't know if you keep doing the same thing and it doesn't work, what are you doing? But anyway, thanks for your time.
Doc, great call. Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly frustrating. The only coach they hired with previous experience is Gase, who never should have been hired. If you keep hiring first-time guys and expecting them to learn on the job, not easy in New York. But if you're going to do it, you have to try and hire offense. That's where the league is going. You can't hire defensive coaches. It's not how the sport works. It has to be perfect for a defensive coach to win. They got to hire an amazing staff, or they got to have a superhuman at quarterback, like Josh Allen, for example, with Sean McDermott. Veteran Jet fan says, Tanenbaum predicted the Jets would have a better record and season than the Steelers. He did. He did. It's on the record. Jack said the fact that AG said he chose Fields because it was hard for him to game plan against him tells you everything you need to know about AG. Again, his defenses were not good in Detroit. We don't need to pretend. Again, this is what he said at his introductory press conference.
What do you look for in a quarterback? Like, what's an Aaron Glenn quarterback?
A winner.
You're disqualified when you sign Justin Fields. You're disqualified. You don't get to now pick another quarterback. You're gone. See ya. Bye. You've done nothing else right that's redeeming to deserve another opportunity. Oh, but it didn't hamstring them. Who cares? You gave them $30 million. The fact that it will count against their cap and affect them negatively stinks. It's not good enough. Like, it's unacceptable. Beyond the staffing hires, beyond the fact that defense was historically bad and you're supposed to be a defensive guy. It's mind-boggling, man. It really is. I mean, Justin Fields in his career is 16-37. That's who they signed. A winner. Well, the guy that actually is a winner is playing in the playoffs tonight. And again, this is not even about Rodgers, because you can move on from Rodgers. I understand. But you can't sell me on Fields and having this plan, and it looks that bad. He had never been this bad anywhere else, and I'm not a Fields guy. I never have been. He has no feel for the quarterback position. Haven't we seen that? This is the same guy telling us Brady Cook could play in this league. There's no plan. There's no offensive creativity. You can't sit here and try and argue that this somehow works, that they took Dante Moore at 2. I'd be terrified. Superman says, any thoughts on trading for Herbert? Why would the Chargers trade him? Why would they trade him? If he's available, I'm all in. Why would they trade him, though? Same thing with Burrow. Why would they trade him? Lamar, why would they trade him? These things aren't realistic, unfortunately. Let's get to more of your calls, shall we?
Good morning, Jake.
Hello, Kyle.
So, yeah, I mean, I had the fear of missing something yesterday with the photos you put in the Discord of Charles and Max and the Next Gen Jets guys. Looked like a good time.
Well, speaking of Charles, look at this. He just became a channel member. Gorman in the house in this sea of Asmaniacs yesterday.
Yeah, so I was obviously listening to you on the radio with Mike T yesterday. And I'm going to defend him to an extent. So there was a dearth of options in the quarterback market last year. I don't blame them for rolling the dice on Fields. I do blame them for the rhetoric about him being never been coached properly and kind of raising expectations. They should have treated him as if like what he was, a space filler, right? He was a space holder. So that means you tailor his contract accordingly, right? And if that means you miss out on him because he's not willing to put a lot of his guaranteed money into year one, then so be it, right? But from where I was sitting, there wasn't a lot of teams that were kind of vying for Justin Fields services. It was pretty much between us and the Steelers, and it seems like the Steelers wanted him as a backup option. So read the room, Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn. I don't mind if they were to do the same thing this year, but do it correctly. Say with the Packers backup. If they were to structure it like a short deal where the guaranteed money was in year one, if they don't like the quarterbacks that they think they're going to get at 2, by all means do that. I don't think the Raiders are moving off pick 1 under any circumstances. If they like their quarterback, they're going to pick their quarterback.
Yep.
So, we're going to have to look for a plan B. And plan B, and this is why you don't keep Aaron Glenn, is you might not be able to draft your quarterback this year, right? So what's going to happen is they're going to look to build a team around him. They're going to have a team, bad to middling success next year, right? No, or to middling success. They'll be somewhere between 3 and 7 wins. And then he's going to be on the hot seat again next year with a possible replacement coming in to actually take the quarterback. Even if we were to, take Malik Willis or whomever and, bring him in here, we'd still need to get a guy that was a quarterback whisperer to kind of take him through this Engstrand offense. I'm with Frankie V. I'm not totally out on Engstrand yet. I think that we saw that he was scheming some guys open, and Fields was just missing him in the first half of the year, right? But let's get to a point where we can at least get some coaches that can support a guy that we bring in here, whether it's a drafted guy or a placeholder guy, and then see where the chips may fall for 2026. I'm not optimistic because Glenn is remaining here. I mean, it's just that easy. I appreciate your time, Jake.
Kyle, appreciate you. And again, you can't watch the playoffs this weekend and see the innovative coaching in these teams. And like the Jets are nowhere close to that. There's nothing positive you could build on. Nothing. You hire an experienced coach, there's immediate positives people will believe. Charles Gorman, you're in the raffle for 1. Jorge writes in, for you Glenn truthers, Glenn didn't choose to retire with the Jets, the team had his most success with. We would have killed Revis if he did that. So Glenn retired as a Houston Texan. That is true. I don't hold that against Glenn. I just bring that up when it's like, oh, he's a former Jet. He wanted the job. It's like, okay, cool. Other people will want the job as well. That doesn't mean you get to just be the head coach forever when you're this bad. JD says if we draft a QB at 2 and Woody fires AG, Woody's completely hopeless. Well, why wouldn't you think that's going to happen, JD? Look at the history of teams that draft a quarterback that high and how their rest of their years go. Glenn's got to win games. He's not surviving a 4 or 5 win season next year. Let's say they win 5 games. So that'd be a 2-win improvement. 8 wins through 2 years. You're not getting a 3rd year. How is this team winning games next year when they play the NFC, the NFC North and the AFC West? Every year is different. I get that. But it's never different for the Jets. Why? There's one common theme. We never have the right coach paired with the right quarterback. We've had the right quarterback. We had Sam Darnold. How'd that look? Don't have the right coach. Veteran Jet fan. Imagine Nagy was hired last year and he coached like Glenn and went 3-14. Every Jet fan would be livid if Nagy wasn't fired. Of course. This was the most obvious one and done ever. The only reason why it's not universal Jet fans don't want Glenn gone is because he was a former Jet. If you removed that, people would say, what are we debating here? Again, 8 of the 10 most recent one and done coaches, their replacement all made the playoffs in their tenure. And David Culley led to Lovie Smith, and that was a unique situation. I could talk about that because think about what was happening with the Texans. They had a franchise quarterback who was a top 5 guy that then requested a trade, but they couldn't trade him for a full year until the legal situation was settled. So they needed a basic placeholder at coach for Culley for a year because they knew they weren't going to be able to do anything without Deshaun, and they couldn't trade him and cash in on Deshaun until he was cleared or settled, which is what he did, all the alleged sexual misconduct lawsuits. So Culley was a placeholder. He was terrible. He was better than Aaron Glenn, at least record-wise. And then that led to Lovie Smith. He wasn't the answer. They got rid of him, and they hired D'Amico. We'll see what happens with the Raiders. Obviously, they're equipped now with the number 1 pick. But again, this list just tells you why Glenn should have been fired. But he's not. So now as we move forward, I want to see staff improvements. And if Dante Moore declares, I want to trade out and get a haul because I don't trust this coaching staff. I'd rather get my quarterback in 27 and have the quarterback and the coach be on the same timeline. But the Jets never listen to what we want, so get ready. The Macho Man says Glenn retired a Texan. Yeah, he signed a 1-day contract to retire with the Houston Texans. Go look it up. I don't make this up. Here's what we're going to do. A lot of people have been referencing it. The full video is on my channel, but I edited a short version of some of Mike T and I arguing about the Jets. I'll play this, then we'll get to your calls. Again, on the show today, we're going to give away a Curtis Martin signed helmet, so make sure you enter the Asmaniac raffle. We will be back right after you hear Mike Tanenbaum and I yell at each other.
My question is, Jake, if Duke Rockne and Bill Walsh were calling plays towards the end of the season with who they had left, I don't think the outcome would have been different. But more fundamentally, I don't think it matters because it wasn't about this year. It was about establishing a program and putting together a good long-term plan.
Mike, there's no way you actually believe that, do you?
What, that they have a long-term plan?
They changed their plan a bunch of times. They said they were trying to win this year. They signed Justin Fields and gave him $30 million, and Aaron Glenn said he's going to be our guy. He's never been coached up properly. They started 0-7. When you say they tear it down to the studs, they made 2 notable trades, and their defense sucked with those guys anyway. He fired Wilkes. That was a disaster hire in the first place. If they weren't trying to win at the end of the year, why did you get rid of them?
You know what, Jake? You know what good organizations do? You know what smart people do? They react and they take advantage of opportunities. That's what Apple does, Amazon does, NVIDIA does. That's what good companies and organizations do.
Right, but should it look that bad? That's the point.
Wait, let me finish.
Bad.
So when the Jets take advantage of an opportunity that they see and make great trades for the long-term future, why don't you go by the facts and look at it and say, that's really smart. That's really thoughtful. So, no, they weren't going to win the Super Bowl this year, and they are in a much better position for the future today than they've been in a long, long time, and they didn't put a Band-Aid on it. And when you sign Justin Fields, context is everything here. You could keep saying $30 million till you're blue in the face, but the facts are, if we were running a team, what I would be telling you is, of course you're going to bring in players. Obviously, every team does. But you don't want to hurt your long-term flexibility the way the Falcons did with Kirk Cousins, the way the Dolphins did with Tua. Yeah, did Justin Fields work out? Of course it didn't, Jake. And you could scream every single time, $30 million, $30 million. It doesn't stop what they want to do. And that's why context, when you talk about things, is really important. Because what they have is flexibility and a tremendous opportunity to improve this roster in a very short amount of time. And that's the facts. Regardless of what you say, that's the truth, and that's the unbiased fact. They have cap room, they have draft choices, and they have flexibility that their competition doesn't have.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you say your piece.
And by the way, I'll tell you this. I have talked to other owners face-to-face who are envious of the Jets' position.
Mike, here's the thing, though. A couple things can be true. Darren Muji might have a good plan, and they have all these resources, but it won't matter if your head coach is this bad and doesn't improve. Because, again, you said at the beginning of the year, if the Jets in December could beat the Jets in September, that'd be real progress. And they couldn't.
Right.
And there's no evidence that Aaron Glenn is a good coach. There's nothing he did well this year as a head coach. He brought up that they didn't have any field goals that were blocked. No, don't interrupt me after you made you tried to mock me to Jordan that I interrupted you, which I did no such thing. I let you lay out your point. Let me lay out mine. Couple things here. Over the last 25 years, because you're a data guy, from 2001 to 2025, there have been 29 first-time NFL head coaches who won 4 or fewer games in their debut season. Glenn's now part of that group. Only 2 of the 28 ever went on to win 1 playoff game or more in their careers. One of them is Zach Taylor, who has Joe Burrow, and the other is Dan Campbell, who had Ben Johnson and former number 1 pick in the draft in Jared Goff. If you look at the numbers this year, how they played at the end, which is why Woody was reportedly pissed with how they finished, they became the first team ever to lose 5 straight games by 23 or more points. They're the first team ever since this stat was being tracked to not have an interception in a single season.
The quarterback decisions, disaster. Coaching staff hires, Steve Wilkes, Charles London. We have no idea about Tanner Engstrand. Disasters at this point. They went 0-6 against the AFC East, outscored by 20 points per game. It's the second worst point differential in the current division format, besides the 2009 Rams, who won one game. If you remove special teams and just go by DVOA, combined offense and defense, this is the third worst team since 1978 when they started keeping track of those stats. Glenn said the last 4 minutes of each half belonged to the head coach. They were a disaster in those scenarios. There was zero player development. You can't name one player that improved on this team on defense besides Sherwan Briggs. He said it was going to be all about coaching. He hyped up Will McDonald and his ability to coach him up and the rest of the other players. They had 8 of their 11 starters back from last year. He didn't know how long the game-winning field goal yardage was against the Broncos. When they started 0-7, they were trying to win. And when you tell me they tear it down to the studs, they traded 2 players who were having bad years and then immediately left, and Quinton Williams became an all-pro once again. And so, yeah, they have picks. Yeah, they have cap space. But most franchises would have fired Aaron Glenn immediately after the year. The Jets didn't, and Aaron Glenn enters year 2 on the hot seat. He's got to win games. I don't care about this long-term plan. It's enough. Look at all these coaches that are immediately having success. Aaron Glenn was not bad in year 1, Mike. You need to understand this. He was historically bad. So I don't need to sit here and try and gaslight me that this is all part of the plan. It's all going to work.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me finish. I let you finish. Wait, so when you try and tell me that this is all going to work out, that's based on nothing.
Yeah, based on Aaron Glenn's background and track record, tell me where in his biography over the last 20 years he hasn't improved.
He's not a head coach. I don't care what he does as an assistant coach or as a coordinator. That's not a head coach. It's a totally different job.
Yeah, Jake, I couldn't disagree with you more because I've been around coaches my whole professional career, and they will tell you how hard the job is, and they'll tell you how much better they got. And I believe in Aaron Glenn. They had a bad year. You have all the stats. What I'm telling you is they have a plan. They're going to try to execute it. They'll be better, and we'll see how it goes. It doesn't matter 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins. That's the part where you and I just totally disagree.
Mike, you told me that we'd see progress throughout the year. We were giving Glenn credit when they won the 3 out of 5 after the 0-7 start. The reality is they have 3 wins against backup quarterbacks this year. They started with a 7-game losing streak. They beat 3 backup quarterbacks, and then they ended the year breaking an NFL record for losing 23 or more points 5 straight weeks. I can't sit here and just be positive just because they have draft picks and cap space.
I'm being honest and sober about it. I'm saying the right thing to do is exactly what they're doing. That's being honest and sober. And in terms of the stats, no, it wasn't good enough this year. But that's not what he was hired to do. He was hired to put a good long-term team and plan in place. And we could disagree all we want, but they have good young players. You could ignore that, and that's fine. But I think, hope, and expect it will be a better team next year than it was this year.
See, the last part that he makes, they have good young players. They had good young players when he took over. He acquired Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. They were on the team. He had Olu Fashanu and Joe Tippmann. He had Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson and Sauce and Quinnen. They had good young players. They had a foundation. This job wasn't supposed to be a tear down and build it back up. It was show progress in year 1. You get the quarterback in year 2, and you're building something. This wasn't a gigantic overhaul rebuild. Their win total was 6.5. They weren't supposed to have the worst record in the league. We've completely moved the goalposts on what this year was supposed to be. Oh, Jake, they're tanking. That was not the plan. They pivoted because they started 0-7. They're supposed to lay the foundation. Half the coaching staff is being fired. They're going to have a brand new defensive staff. Wilkes is gone. Come on. He did nothing well as a head coach in year 1. Nothing. No field goals blocked. Philly says if they didn't pivot, how would you feel? Of course, the pivot was the right move, but that doesn't give you an excuse to lose the way they did down the stretch where they won 3 of 5. What happened? Should they go 0-6 and lose by 20 points on average against the AFC East alone? Worst team since division realignment other than the 2009 1-15 Steve Spagnuolo-led Rams? Jets Johnny says, top 10 in rushing yards per game and attempt. You want a cookie for that? Who cares? Does rushing win in the NFL today? No. It doesn't. It's not enough. You want to give him credit for the rushing attack? Awesome. Who cares? Doesn't mean anything. They were 32nd in passing. They didn't have an interception all year. These are the things that matter. Takeaways, scoring points. They don't score points. It's brutal. It really is. We're set up for another year of this nightmare. It sucks. Doc Jet fan, really appreciate the gesture from Doc. He's become a great caller. He is in the raffle for 10. Let's go. Unreal. Let's go. 10 memberships from the Doc. He's in our Curtis Martin helmet raffle. More of your calls coming up. Jay Petito says, Curtis, my favorite Martin raffle. He's in for 5. Let's go.
I hug him every day. I hug him every day.
Veteran Jet fan, Woody said Muji was Glenn's sidekick, not Jake. Talk about, yeah, by the way, when we refer to Muji as the sidekick, that was in Woody's words. That's where that came from. That's not me saying that. But I do think just reading body language and what others have noted at that presser does feel like maybe they're on more equal footing now than they were. All right. I don't know if Muji is a true sidekick anymore. Shout out to Kathleen, became a channel member. She is in the raffle now for the Curtis Martin helmet. All right. More of your calls. Appreciate all of you who are on the line. Jason in Jerusalem's next. Let's get to all the calls. Uh-oh. Jason, call back. Holy bad audio. That was going to be a disaster. Call back, Jason. I'll get you on. In the meantime, we go to Rooster. Hello, Rooster.
How you doing, my friend?
What's up, man?
What a great weekend of football. How good were those games, first and foremost? I mean, unbelievable. It's nice to watch good football, isn't it?
Yeah, the games are great other than really the last one, because, of course.
The only funny thing is I love Josh Allen. I know I'm a diehard Jeff fan. He won me 2 fantasy championships. I love the way the guy plays. I love the way everything he does. The Bills don't bother me. The Patriots, forget it. They make me sick to my stomach, and they're good again. But you know what was not underreported? The Falcons fired their coach. They fired the GM. And what is the first thing they do? They hired a president of operations, put Matt Ryan in there.
Smart.
Get the organization right. We are still asking the question, well, who's really running the team? Is it Muji? Is it Glenn? Is it Muji? And that is still the underlying problem with the Jets. We're going into this year, and we're not quite sure who has the power. I mean, we think Glenn still does, but we saw something. I mean, where it's such a clusterfuck all the time with us.
Yeah, I think that title that Matt Ryan has, what Tony Baselli has with the Jaguars, what Elway did with the Broncos, he was also really their GM too. But like having someone that the head coach and the GM have to report to that's not Woody, that Woody trusts, that can actually shoot him straight on what's happening and not be gaslit what Aaron Glenn did to Woody, that he has this plan, even though we can never cite specifics of what their plan is and has no evidence of being able to put together a plan. That's where a director of football operations separating the owner and the business side from the football side, that's where that is.
I mean, 30 years of the same structure. You'd think this guy would get a clue. Now, I do want to talk to draft a little with you. You know, I've been a proponent all along that's saying that I never wanted to trade up for the quarterback. I wasn't giving up assets for the quarterback. And now we're sitting at 2 and the Dante Moore discussion. So, again, for me, it's always been, if you love Dante Moore, you take Dante Moore at 2. If you don't love Dante Moore, you take the best player. Now, with the Dante Moore thing, I think we all need to take a grain of salt that game. He was missing his running backs. It kind of spiraled a little. If you love Dante Moore a week before, you still got to like Dante Moore. You can't let that one game throw it completely. Now, I agree with you, because if we take Dante Moore and Aaron Glenn is on what we say is the hot seat, he's going to throw him in there and ruin everything. That's why it's just like, again, that goes back to my point where I got eviscerated last week. It kind of came out wrong when I said, Woody Johnson, if you are keeping Aaron Glenn, you got to at least stand by Aaron Glenn so we could at least feel like he feels that there's no pressure. But we all know it's just, you know what I'm saying? It's just all screwed up. We just can't get it right. Like, if you're keeping Aaron Glenn, you got to back him big time. And I know I don't want Aaron Glenn, but then what are we doing? We want this operation to operate correctly the next 5 years. And how are we going to get there? Take the quarterback to develop him, not to rush him in there. That's Dante Moore. But we know the story. Jake, you're the best. I love that conversation with Mike T. Great stuff.
Rooster, thanks for listening, man. Yeah, I mean, I think his first point is something we've talked about a year ago. Director of football ops. Remember Curtis Martin was rumored to have interest in NFL ownership? Sell him a piece of the team, Woody. Let him be your confidant, your right-hand man. Give it away a signed Curtis Martin helmet. Jake West said, would you rather have 10 wins with McCarthy or 10 wins with Glenn? I'll take 10 wins with anyone. I don't care there. I'll take 10 wins with you as the coach, Jake West. Barney. It doesn't matter to me. If Glenn proves me wrong, so be it. I'd be happy. Honestly. I'm a Jet fan. Matthew says, Jake, you covered the Texans. How far do you think they'll go in the playoffs? I used to cover them. I mean, I don't know. My heart wants Pittsburgh to win tonight, but I think Houston should win, right? Their defense should travel, and they should be able to get pressure on Rodgers. And we know if he gets hit, he's not going to take the chances downfield. Now, they do have DK back, but Stingley should be able to cover him. I don't know. I mean, Rodgers should have the answers to the test, but if the O-line can't protect him, do you trust Stroud or Rodgers more in this spot? I don't know. I mean, Stroud's been playing really good, but Houston in their history has never won a road playoff game. The Rooster with a call. He's in the raffle for one. Rooster, thank you. Good call. Let's get to more of your calls. We barely heard this guy. It was like an audio explosion about to go off. Jason is back on with us. Hello, Jason.
Hey, is it working now?
Yes.
All right, great. You had a great guest before. I forget his name. But I agree with him with the OC. I saw a nice amount of design and things like that. I mean, the fact that it seemed like Mechie dropped at least 3 touchdowns with schemes that were really designed to create open players.
There is some hope for some hope for Engstrom for sure. I'm not going to deny that. My point is, if Glenn's sticking around and you have a chance to get a proven offensive coordinator, I rather do that than roll with Engstrom and hope he's good,
I hear that. I also remember Herman Edwards constantly cycling through coordinators because he just couldn't do it. And he also was very much a CEO type of a coordinator. But we at least had success with Herm.
Yeah,
right now, Glenn is looking like the John Idzik of head coaches for us. As to your point, if you have any of the quarterbacks equal to Dante Moore, trade out of 2 and get picks. I would love to trade down to 6 and see what Cleveland has to offer if they have more so much higher. This team has so many holes. The idea that you need to take a quarterback simply because he's a quarterback. If your team's not ready for it, if you have somebody somewhat equal, go that route, get more bodies on this team. Get more talent. Because this team is so empty of talent in so many key positions. I mean, what would the cost be to go from 2 to 6, for example?
It depends on their grade for the quarterbacks. You would definitely get, I think, a first next year in that type of trade up, though, from 6 to 2.
Yeah, you probably get their 1, their 2, and their 1 next year.
Well, you're definitely getting
something like that easily.
2 to 6. You'd get something else this year and probably a 1 next year.
Right, but they have a second 1. They have Jacksonville's number 1.
Correct.
As well.
So maybe you could ask for that. I mean, maybe they'd be willing to give you that.
Right. And if you do like the guy from Old Miss, then get him at the end of the first round. Get that 5th-year option. That is key for a quarterback. Why would you want, even though you have the 33rd pick and you get him the first pick in the second round, that means you only have him for 4 years and you lose the option of him. Even if you don't think that even if you have him ranked in 40, you don't think anybody else is going to take him beforehand, make sure you secure yourself with that 5th-year option.
Again, depends on the cost. I think ideally you do that. We've seen teams do that. Teddy Bridgewater. Remember the Vikings traded back in to do that? The Ravens with Lamar Jackson, they did that as well. So that, to me, is a big part of all this.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. I don't trust Glenn. But as a Jet fan, if he succeeds, I'd love it. I don't want the man to fail. We just don't see any evidence that he has the tools for which to succeed. And for Tanenbaum to be on the radio, and it's basically he's defending his position here. Of course you're going to say that because you look really, really crappy to say publicly on the radio. The man that I suggested that they hire really screwed things up the first year to the point that he doesn't deserve a job. Gee, the 33rd team's never going to have another employee, never get another job. So of course Tanenbaum's going to take that position. He's not objective.
Of course. I mean, look, there's not much he could really say. He has to defend the guy that he recommended. It's as simple as that.
Right, and at least we got the Isles, Jake.
Thank God. Thank God, Jason. Excellent point. Great win by the Islanders in overtime Saturday night. We got them. Knicks back on track with a win yesterday. Josh Hart is back. It's amazing how important he is, but he is. Jesus Jerry, Stroud slagged A-Rod Steelers by 5. I wonder, Rodgers remembers everything. Remember Stroud had those comments after he was like peacocking after his great rookie year? He talked about how he'd rather have Eli Manning's career than Rodgers' career, and everyone was like, what? I bet you Rodgers remembers that. He remembers everything. Johnny says, Jake, do you think there will be a point in the future where you think Woody would really consider selling the team? You never say never, but why would he? He bought the team for $600 million, and look at the franchise value now of it. And the Jets have sucked for most of his tenure. So why would he? He's training his son to be an owner one day. His son goes everywhere with him. Cuddy says, I want a Texans 23 type draft. Use one of our seconds with the 16th pick and grab an edge after our QB at 2. I have a feeling we'll trade for a vet, though. Well, what vet are you trading for? Kyler? I think that's me in your profile picture too, Cuddy. I appreciate you. What was that? Looks like, were we in London for that? I can't tell where that picture was taken. It's too small on YouTube. Let's see. Yeah, I still can't tell. You know what? Maybe it is the MetLife parking lot. I think it was the Chargers game on Monday night. I think I remember wearing the jacket with that hoodie. I could be wrong. Anyway, I digress. I don't know what veteran. I mean, Kyler, Kirk Cousins, or is he just going to be cut? You sign him. Mac Jones. They're going to have to be creative. That's part of this. More of your calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, this man was a huge hit at the watch party. It's time.
Hey, Charles! You'll never get my chicken soup recipe. Hey, Charles! I'm not saying that Lowski takes steroids. Give me some of it. Hey, Charles! Who is that lovely lady? Sing it this way, Charles!
Hey, Jake. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
I'm at one of my favorite places, the Colonial. I just had brunch. Going to go pick up my medicine soon. Listen, Jake, it was an absolute blast at the watch party yesterday. It was a great meeting. A lot of the other Asmaniacs that attended. Huge shout out to them. It was a great meeting. Your friends, especially one of their cousins and your lady friend's brother. That was very nice. I don't really need to think much about Mike Tanenbaum other than the fact that I think he's a space cadet. But that's another story for another time. As for the possibility of Dante Moore declaring for the draft, as a lot of people have said, if you're interested in the guy, take him. If not, get the best player available. I mean, this year has been an embarrassment. I mean, I want Aaron Glenn to succeed too, but he hasn't shown me much. I mean, other than, dancing and maybe the rushing attack, what else has he done well?
0 field goals were blocked.
That's true, yeah. Other than that, I mean, seriously, I hope he rebounds in year 2, but we shall see. Anyways, got to get going. Peace out, everybody.
That's it, Charles? You're done?
Yeah, man, I'm going to go pay my bill and get the hell out.
Well, what did you have for lunch today?
For brunch? Thank you, Jamie. I had a Texas chicken wrap.
Really?
It was good.
Now, how did your McDonald's go? After I last saw you, Charles, you were
Oh,
hustling.
it was all right. It went well.
How was the commute back home?
Jamie, I didn't get an iced coffee. Got a Pepsi.
Good choice, Charles.
Yeah. I had a couple of snack wraps at McDonald's, so yeah.
Amanda says real men brunch.
Real man. Oh, that's your friend. Hi, Amanda. Thank you, Jamie. So same price, okay. Acknowledge me, baby. Okay. I did acknowledge you. Oh, she's talking to you, Jake.
No, she was talking to you, but you acknowledged her. You're good.
Listen.
What else is on the agenda today, Charles? What do you got going on?
Well, after this, me go to Costco, get some shopping, pick up some delicious food for like a lunch, for like a dinner or something. So, anyways, I may get a haircut if they're open, of course.
It's a Monday. Why wouldn't they be open?
Well, some business hours and stuff. So we shall see. Anyways, I hope you're all having a great day. I may call in the second show. So peace out.
Charles, thank you.
Hi, I'm Charles, and I'm going to talk about Spider-Man and movies and sports and video games and maybe hot chicks.
Good morning, everybody. We're on our way right now to Menards. Yep, we're going on the bus right now. We're just moving along. Now, let's get back to the Jake Asman Show. Take it away, Jake Asman. Oh.
Thank you, Beast. All right, home stretch here. Jets, Johnny, Jake, you don't actually believe rushing doesn't win games. Of course, it can help you win games, but the Jets being top 10 in rushing doesn't mean anything when your passing is 32nd. There needs to be more of a balanced offense. If the Jets were top 10 in passing, but 32nd in rushing, they'd have more than 3 wins, is how I would describe it, Johnny. That obviously you prefer to be balanced. You want to have some semblance of running game. But if the Jets were 10th in passing yards per game and 32nd in rushing, they wouldn't have finished 3-14, given where the NFL is as a league. That's the point that we're trying to make. Passing is way more important than running. That's how the league is. Southern Jet is on the line. Hello, Rich.
Good afternoon, guys. How you doing? Just 2 quick points. The way the league is going, and as Robbie said, the schemes are being such that the soft spots are becoming the middle of the field, the intermediate throws, the zone throws, and I really want a quarterback 6'3" at a minimum or higher to be able to not only make those throws, but to see, to decipher the scheme, to decipher the progressions. And I was never really sold on Moore to begin with, but and this will get to my second point, but I know people are saying take a flyer later in the draft, and if we do that, there's one quarterback that I'm not saying he's all pro, but that piques my interest, and it's Drew Willar from Penn State. I don't think he would be the worst guy to take a flyer on later in the draft if we do what you mentioned earlier, stock up on some talent. And he's 6'5". He's known. He's got some things he's got to work on, but he is known for very, very smart reading defensive schemes and throwing the intermediate ball. And that's where the game's going. Look at all the slots, the slots take over the games a lot of times. And my other point is I don't know, is it a poll? Is it a fun thing to do with the crew here? But what would we be willing? Because in my opinion, a great quarterback who can read the defenses and get to your 4th and 5th progressions, like Brady, which is rare, can complete passes to average receivers. You don't need all pro receivers, and you can get those all the time, as you've said many times. You can get receivers. You don't have to get a receiver in the top 5. What would we be willing to give up for the Vegas pick? how many picks would we be willing to give up from this year's and next year's stock, and or would we be willing to give up a package of picks and say a Garrett Wilson or something? Because you can, everybody says the quarterback's the most important thing. You get that rare gem that's going to be an all-pro several seasons, going to be a franchise quarterback. What would you be willing to give up in your Pirates chest to Vegas for Mendoza?
I wouldn't give up really anything if Aaron Glenn's the head coach. And now if we had, I'll use insert offensive coach for this. Let's say we had Kevin O'Connell, or we had Matt LaFleur, or we had someone proven like John Harbaugh.
Or a Palmer as a quarterback coach.
Or just like we felt better about our infrastructure. Then I'll listen to those who say, let's trade the Colts pick in one of our ones next year. So our pick and then 2 additional ones for 3 total first rounders. So I'll listen to something like that. I don't think it'd be smart for the Jets to do that until we have our actual coach who will be here to develop and oversee that development properly of the quarterback. I'd rather wait till 27 with the 3 ones we have and do it then.
And that's my original leaning also. But you don't think Mendoza could survive 8 games of Aaron Glenn and then thrive when the new coach comes in?
Well, it'd be more than 8 games, but I get your point.
Well, how many was Salah?
Yeah, no, for sure. I just feel like that. But once you fire the coach in the middle of the year's cooked. Like that's
that, and it's cooked next year anyway. No matter, even if we got Brady, we're cooked next year.
Yeah, I again, if you believe in Mendoza, then obviously your opinion will be different than someone who's wishy-washy. I just don't. I like Mendoza a lot. I don't think he is a prospect where I'm willing to bet my future on him if I have to give up that much. If I had to trade just the Colts pick, okay. But if we start touching our 2027 first rounders, I'd rather save that for the next coach. The problem is Glenn and Muji are desperate to win now. They don't care about the next coach. They might be willing to do it if the Raiders are going to listen. But I think the Raiders are going to be in love with Fernando Mendoza and just take him. It won't be an option.
But if you don't think he's generational, then I agree with you. We should wait till 27, which I said 6 months ago that I thought would be the way to go. Stock up on some talent because I knew Glenn was going to suck. And so, stock up on some talent and save those 3 picks as bait for, the new coach coming in when we fire Glenn next year. And what's not being talked by a lot of people is as far as next year's, how many are we going to win? How's Glenn going to do good? We're bringing in a new defensive coordinator, which means, and this is what they never fucking understand it. I don't get it. How, people watch football. That means a new playbook. And as Bill Parcells used to say, it takes at least 1 3/4 to 2 years to fully install a playbook. The whole playbook that coach has made their resume on. And so we're going to get, not only are we getting a new coordinator, and if he's good, even if it's Wink Martindale, great. But you're only getting, Parcells used to say the first year you got 50 to 60% of that. You could install 50 to 60% of the schemes and the nuances in that first year. And then, off-season minicamp, the next year is where you fully got the install. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, even if we get a great defensive coordinator.
100%. And the bottom line is too, Rich, what great defensive coordinator would even want this job in the first place? That's my big fear. I mean, we could hope that they could stumble into someone really good. Like, we didn't know who Chris Banjo was. Obviously, that was a great hire. Maybe we catch lightning in the bottle. Does Westhoff have anyone else you could recommend on defense? So special teams? It's tough. But you're right. I mean, again, that's why I thought it was laughable when people were like, oh, well, they laid the foundation this year. What foundation are you laying? You went 3-14. You have tremendous roster turnover coming. And some of it is self-inflicted because you were so bad defensively this year that you have a brand new coaching staff coming in. You made the commitment to Sherwood, so maybe he's still here. But all these other guys who regressed, are they on the team next year now? Jermaine Johnson definitely here. Will McDonald, going to pick up his 5th-year option. Well, based on what Glenn was saying over the summer, it would have been a no-brainer to pick up Will McDonald's option because he was going to break out this year because he was finally being coached probably.
Coaching. It's coaching. Because he can do it. It's just coaching. That's all it is.
Like, that's the whole point I've been trying to make. It's not just the record. It's that there's no tangible signs of coaching being deployed here, development happening on offense or defense. You want to give the staff credit for Membu? Okay, but he's the 7th pick in the draft. Like, Becton was great as a rookie too. Once the league now adjusts to what they do, is the coaching going to be able to help them to readjust to that and stay elite? I laugh when Tanenbaum was like, there's good young pieces here. I know, Mike. That's why I want to get rid of the incompetent head coach so the next head coach can actually coach up those good young pieces and put them in positions to succeed, like what Mike Vrabel did in New England this year, or Ben Johnson in Chicago, or Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, or what Sean Payton has done in Denver, or D'Amico in Houston, or McDonald in Seattle. We know. That's the point. Comments, questions, super chats, cut the line, home stretch of calls. Ladies and gentlemen, sing along.
Get ready for Neil. He will make 13 points about the New York Jets and maybe hump a Patriots jersey. Get ready for Neil. He's probably smoking a big fat cigar and burning his house to the ground. That's Neil.
Hello, Jake.
Hello, Neil.
Listen to your interview with Mike T for Terrible. Let me tell you something. This guy is such a buffoon. I can't even believe it. You should have said to him, listen, Mike, if you bring any of those takes you have about Aaron Glenn on to Get Up, or whatever his show is, they might laugh you off the station and fire you from that. Okay, you're already fired from being a consultant, because I wouldn't have you consulting me on anything whatsoever. And as far as, his thoughts and his takes were just incredibly, it was ridiculous. It was the stupidest thing I ever heard. Great set of games. Everybody has to get ready for Pittsburgh tonight. I'm very excited to see Aaron tear apart the Texans. And I think there's a 20, what's the winning streak for Aaron Rodgers on Monday night? I think he's like undefeated in like 20-something games.
Not anymore, because the Jets ruined that one.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, he lost on Monday night with the Jets twice last year.
Maybe it's Pittsburgh streak. Somebody has a very crazy winning streak on Monday Night Football.
He's been very good on Monday Night Football in his career, but with the Jets, that streak, he was previously undefeated before he became a Jet.
Now, watching the Patriot game yesterday, and then you watch Adrian Gonzalez, and you want to compare Adrian Gonzalez to Sauce Gardner, Jake?
You mean Christian Gonzalez, Neil?
Christian Gonzalez, I'm sorry. You want to compare him? You think Sauce Gardner's in the same category as Gonzalez? Because I'll tell you right now, they don't even belong on the field together.
He was his first 2 years. I don't have to defend Sauce anymore. He's not a Jet. I don't care.
I got it.
2 first-round picks.
Here's what I heard. This is how good the defensive coordinator was for the Patriots yesterday. Robert Spillane said Chargers players told him after the game they had no clue what coverage New England was running. They came up. They basically said that the defense that the Patriots were running, they had no clue what they were doing. That's how over-dominant that defensive coordinator was. I don't even know his name. Was that guy ever a coordinator before?
You talking about the Patriots, DC?
Yeah, the Patriots D coordinator. I never heard of the guy.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel has a lot to do with that defense. But, yeah, again, Vrabel hires good coaches. This shouldn't surprise anyone.
I got to tell you something. That was a dominant performance on defense by the Patriots.
Yeah, the Chargers had no answers for all the blitzes, and their offensive line was in shambles anyway because of all the injuries.
you saw Beckham in there at right guard. I saw him stick his arm out a few times to try to, he was like a turnstile in there last night.
Becton had a bad year with the Chargers.
Becton
he left the machine that was the Eagles and Jeff Statlin, their Hall of Fame line coach.
Yep. Anyhow, I just wanted to comment on your wonderful piece. I was in the swimming pool listening to it yesterday over here. And
that wasn't even the full thing, too. I had to.
Oh, man, I couldn't believe it. I said, this guy is really. Are you in the same studio with him talking like this or not?
No, we do it remote because Mike's either in Florida or he's in Bristol doing Sports Center, ESPN Radio, like their red zone that they do for the game. So he was in Florida yesterday, and I did it from home. So we've never actually been in the same studio doing that show. We were over Zoom, and I have equipment that connects to the station.
All right. I just, as far as my draft take is concerned, look, this kid, there's no way we got to take this kid. We're better off taking a shot, in the first, in a second day pick, or like Rich said, take somebody with a 5th-year option that we don't have to commit too much to quarterback this year, because I don't care who we got. Even Mendoza would not perform on this team with our coaching staff. So that's my take. Let's just take 2027, and I want to be Rip Van Winkle. I want to wake up in 2027 to start the year, and I want to sleep the entire 2026 year. I wouldn't be missing anything. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Neil checking in.
Speaking. How you doing? I didn't hear anything back from him. I think he's still trying to get a commercial flight, and I don't know if he wants to pay, $45,000 or anything like that.
I was enjoying that. Damn. I thought we were gonna get to watch a master in business do his thing, the art of the deal, if you will. Spencer Green with the dumbest comment of the day. I 100% feel if the Jets make the playoffs next year and lose in the wild card, Jake will call for AG's job because we didn't win enough games and how we win doesn't satisfy him. You are out of your mind. If Aaron Glenn gets the Jets to the playoffs next year, I will be campaigning for him to be the coach of the year. Again, the Jets are not making the playoffs next year with this coach, Spencer. So the fact that you even think this is a possibility tells me you're on drugs.
Well, he's a bootlicker, Glenn Butt Slipper, putting perfume on a pig and telling Jake, check his out. He's a bootlicker, Aaron Glenn Truther, holding out a rope and trying to sell us on this shit show.
Unreal. More of your calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy yesterday was a huge hit at our party at T Squared Social. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, man. Let's talk about the Jets. So there's some news, breaking news. So Dante Moore played horrible, so I don't think the Jets should draft him. I think Chambliss play out of his mind. So I think with the draft, it's a little bit too early. The draft's in April, but I think Chambliss can be a very good option in the draft as our franchise quarterback. What do you think of Chambliss, Jake? Because I think it could be a good option. I know Nick Saunders like him because he's a running type quarterback, but really a lot of the modern NFL quarterbacks are mobile quarterbacks. They go out of the pocket. I'm not saying Mendoza is a bad prospect. He's more of a traditional pocket passer, but the traditional pocket passer quarterbacks don't really exist in the NFL. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of good ones, but most of the quarterbacks in these days are mobile. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. So I think Chambliss could be a very good option for the Jets. What's your thoughts on that, Jake? But then I had to either take Ruben Bain or take Alvaro Reese. But really, I don't know what we do. Number 2, I think best player available. I think best, but 16. I think Chambliss could be a good option. And then maybe a Carl Tate. Maybe we go. I don't know, but let's focus on the draft. But in free agency, we need to get a number 2 wide receiver. Maybe if T Higgins is on the market, that could be a very good option, honestly. But before I leave, here's my Jets record predictions. I don't think we're going to do horrible next year. Way too early predictions, 4-13. Go Jets. 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 Jets.
Thank you, man, Max. Amazing how he didn't want to acknowledge that golf shot the entire call. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, Curtis Martin signed. Helmet is the giveaway. We'll give it away on the second show, but if you want to enter, you better do so before the show enters. We have the Frame Super Bowl 3 ticket display raffled away tomorrow. Joe Namath signed helmet. Joe Namath replica 3 ring. Today's the anniversary of Super Bowl 3, so this week's raffle is Super Bowl 3 themed. More calls right now, ladies and gentlemen, the home stretch of our show. Let me get this man's intro so we could do this one properly. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the wagon.
Jet wagon's always cooking, which it takes. Jet wagon's even cooking at the game. Chuck Wagon hates McDonald's, but he's headed home to cook. It's time once again for Chuck Wagon.
Hey, Jake. Hope you had a good weekend.
You too, Chuck. Love the look you got right now.
Oh, thanks. Much obliged. Even though Moore did not have the best game this past weekend, I really don't think it's going to really change much. If the Jets like him, they'll probably still get him. If Mendoza goes number 1, I don't see why we would wait until 27 for a quarterback. Because if you get a quarterback now, you get 3 picks next year. Get a quarterback next year too if you're not satisfied with the one you got this year. So people saying that you should hold off and wait until 27, why not have both? Why not get one now and one later?
I mean, look, you don't want to waste a number 2 pick just to change it, just to draft someone else with a premium pick next year. That's a bad use of resources.
I agree, but that's also assuming that the coaching staff stays from 26 to 27, which most likely won't happen. I guess I'm not too against them trading back if they don't want to get a quarterback and try to get one later in the first round. But no matter what the Jets do, people are going to probably think it's a reach anyways, because that's what they do. But that's all I had for this morning.
Chuck Wagon, the head looks great. Great decision you made.
Yeah. It's starting to grow on me.
I love it. What does your wife think? She doesn't like it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she really hasn't commented too much on it.
Did you ask her for feedback?
I said, I like it, and I think it looks good on me. And she's like, okay. So, yeah.
Well, I think it looks good. I think the chat agreed.
Yeah, I think it looks better than how my hair was before, so it's not too much.
Well,
I made cream of mushroom soup. I made cream of mushroom soup today.
Oh, let's see.
Hold on. Sorry, I gotta change the camera.
That looks tremendous.
It's actually really good. I was actually really surprised. Made it from scratch. Found a good recipe online because I had 1.5 pounds of mushrooms that I wanted to get rid of. So first thing I thought of was cream of mushroom soup. So yeah, I just want to get the mushrooms out of the fridge.
Hell yeah, Chuck. Great call.
I hug him every day. I hug him every day.
I think it looks great. All right. Let's go to Five Brows. Who's next? What's up, Five Brows?
Hey, Jake. How's it going? I want to say, Chuck, you look tremendous too, by the way. Anyway, I would also like to say, so this was a crazy week. We got a lot of interesting news. I mean, I still like Arvell Reese, but he's kind of been he like disappears and comes and goes. He scares me a little bit. It's kind of like a Vernon. Like, I hope he's not the next Vernon Golston, like freak of nature, but he disappears on the field. I like Arvell, but I also like David Bailey. He looked really good, man. But I don't want to overhype just these college playoff performances. We have to look at the whole season. So, I mean, if you want to just go off college playoff, like, we don't get Dante Moore. If he decides not to declare, then we'd have to go. I like David Bailey. I like Arvell Reese.
I like Carnell Tate, and just get a stud receiver at 2 and build the team.
Yeah. Tate is good. I'm really big into the draft. Like, I do dynasty football stuff, and I know that a lot of guys are a little scared about Tate. They like Tate a lot, but they think 2 is too high. They think he's not a top 10 receiver, but I think if you like your guy, get your guy. My only thing is with the Jets, Dante Moore, what we saw with Dante Moore is that he's just not ready yet. I mean, if we get him, we have to have a plan for him. I don't want to just throw him into the wolves. I think he's still good. He's just not Mendoza. But, yeah, 9 starts. What do you think, Jake?
Look, I like Moore. I just don't trust the Jets to develop him. So my dream scenario would be he declares and they could get a team that wants to move up, get picks, take someone else, whether it be Simpson or Chambliss in the second round or Simpson at the end of the first round, or even with the Colts pick, and let's just build the team, and then let's go from there.
I think the Cardinals should trade up with us, move one spot, get some extra picks, and let them take Dante Moore. I think Dante Moore would be a good fit for those guys, just because.
Well, I don't know who their coach is, so that's the tricky part.
True. Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, I'm draft season's upon us. It's going to be very interesting. And in 2 days, we'll know if he declares or not. So that'll be.
We might know today, man. Good call, Fibros. Like we had the story earlier. Dylan Raiola, former Nebraska QB, he committed to Oregon. And while Pete Thamel of ESPN said, oh, he'd be willing to back up Moore for a year if Moore comes back to school, I'm not buying that. I don't think Raiola would go there to not play. I think his best thing would be to go somewhere to play well, and help his draft stock. So I still think Moore declares. Paul is up next. Hello, Paul.
Oh, hi, Jake. How you doing?
Hey, Paul. What's going on?
Well, I wanted to talk about Glenn and this disastrous hiring. So, one thing I don't think you've mentioned was Glenn's most important game that he coached, and that was last year's divisional round playoff against Washington. And talk about disasters. So they're coming off the bye. I think they had only 2 losses, Detroit. He's got an extra week to prepare. And they lose to a rookie quarterback, 45-31. They give up almost 500 yards and no turnovers in typical Glenn fashion. So, and then on top of that, which you've touched on, but I think it's, again, how this hiring even came about. Look at what Glenn did as the defensive coordinator. His statistical rankings were terrible. And he finished in the bottom. His first 2 years, they were like, 31st and 29th or something like that. And then he goes to still the bottom third by year 3, right into like the 20s of defense. And then there's an improvement in his last year. But you can put a caveat on that improvement too, because they've got the best running back duo and a top offense in the league. So they're controlling the ball. So his defense is not on the field as much. And when they are on the defense, it's predictable, right? They're going to be playing, the other teams are going to be playing catch up. So there's, more a one-dimensional play calling that you need to do as a defensive coordinator in that situation. So in best case scenario, because I know you had Tanenbaum on and said he improves every year, which is actually not the case, but we don't have 3 to 4 years to wait for a turnaround. So how this came about, I don't know. I suspect it was just because he's got the Jet pedigree and Woody became enamored with that. But
that's it. That's the biggest thing. You're next time call him without the AirPods, Paul. I think it was messing up your audio a little bit. But I agree. He's not an X's and O's guy. He said that himself. He's a CEO. Well, you're not qualified to do that when your staffing hires are this bad. And again, he got the job because of his success as a defensive coordinator, which was mixed at best, if we're honest. And the numbers are on the screen. And look, I never was one to kill Glenn for the playoff loss because I didn't want to judge the guy off one game. But yeah, it's a bad look that a rookie quarterback, you had 2 weeks to prepare for him, put 40 on your defense with your season on the line when you were 15-2 and you're the 1 seed in the playoffs. That's fair. Now, the Lions' offense wasn't the same that game, too. So you criticized Campbell and Ben Johnson as well. I'd never held that against Glenn. But it's part of it. Sure. All right. We got 2 calls left. Then we wrap, and we're coming back at 3:30 today with Brandon Tierney. So we got to end the show and prepare for the next show. But ladies and gentlemen, on the line right now is a bootlicker for AG.
Well, he's a bootlicker, Glenn butt sniffer, putting perfume on a pig and telling Jake, check to say he's a bootlicker, Aaron Glenn truther, holding out a rope and trying to sell us on this shit show.
Number 1 bootlicker, Jake. Get it right. But yes,
Love that. Love
but
it.
you, let's go, baby. What a picture. Look at that, Alan. I know you're watching.
Carson back.
Yeah, man. Jake,
You going to try and go to the game, Johnny? I saw the tickets are insane.
I'd have to like sell both of my children to afford to go to that game, Jake. There's no way. I could go to every bar in Miami and buy it out twice for the amount of money to go to that game. So I'll be watching it for sure, though. Talking about watching your team, your Queens playing tonight. How do you think Aaron Rodgers does against that Houston Texan defense?
My queen. I think it's a tough matchup because of that front that Houston has, but I don't trust Stroud necessarily. I think it could be a low-scoring, ugly game. This feels like a Tomlin last stand spot. They're really good as underdogs. They're good at home. Houston's not the same team on the road versus at home if you look at the numbers. Plus, they've never in their history won a road playoff game.
Oh,
I
that's interesting.
feel Houston should win, but I'm rooting for Pittsburgh, and it wouldn't surprise me if they won. I'm very much on the fence. If I had to make a pick, screw it. I'll take the home team. Give me Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards Pittsburgh. It's just kind of like the aura thing with Pittsburgh, right? Like Texans got to show me to believe it type thing. But
Should be a
it's hard
great game. I mean, the line is 3 for a reason.
Yeah, it'll prove a lot if Rodgers can beat that defense, because they kind of, I'm not gonna say they got lucky last week against the Ravens, but that DB slipped and he was wide open. So you know what I mean? It is what it is. They won. They're here. It is what it is. So, but I'm interested to see that. And then Buffalo against Denver. Everybody's picking Buffalo for some reason. Everybody's disrespecting Sean Payton and what the Denver did this year. So I don't get that. I think Buffalo gets blown out next week. Denver's like the best team in the NFL by far. I think we're looking at New England playing Denver in the AFC Championship. And then I think I got the 49ers, man. They just have the same thing with, like, to me, with Pittsburgh. It's just the aura. Like, the 49ers are just built for the playoffs. And with Kyle Shanahan, it's hard to bet against them. And they went to Philly and beat them. So I think it'll be 49ers. And yeah. So what do you think, Jake? What's your prediction?
I think Denver should not be an underdog against the Bills. Again, like the Bills are so Josh Allen dependent. Denver's home. They have the rest advantage. They've been clutch all year. I trust Sean Payton. I think Denver should be a slight favorite. I think that's a great game.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you talk about getting lucky, man. Josh Allen and the Bills got a horseshoe up their ass with the very first throw. Like, I'm sitting there expecting, something out of that last drive from Jacksonville.
Jets Johnny's on the phone with someone. Well, on that note, hopefully everything's okay, Mr. Jets Johnny. All right, let's do one more call here. Ladies and gentlemen, today's closer is Adam.
Adam is cool, although kind of basic.
He claims he's too cool, though often quite basic. He makes great jet points, looks a little basic. Adam is cool, too cool, but basic. Some would say generic.
Hey Jake, how's my StreamYard today?
So far, so good, Adam.
Thank God. That was a nightmare before. Sorry about that over the weekend.
You're good, dude. It happens to all of us with this program.
So that Peach Bowl was off the hook. For those that I'm sure people were watching the game and hearing things from the announcers and all that, it was like record loudness at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Hoosier, no one could hear anything. Like everyone's eardrums were like rattling the whole game, especially with that pick six to start the game.
You had great seats. For those who don't know, Adam was at the game Friday watching Mendoza versus Moore in person.
Yeah, I was hoping to see our future quarterback. Maybe we still will. We'll see what happens there. I'm trying to get tickets to Miami to see the final game because that's the football happiness in my life right now.
That's it.
But I had this idea. I think that we could still end up getting Mendoza. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion the Raiders are going to pick him. And the reason I think that's the case is that when you look at the pieces on offense for us, yeah, we need probably another wide receiver to go along with Garrett. But like our offense is like a quarterback away. That's actually, and I don't think the Raiders offense is a quarterback away. And I think that's a big difference. And I think with 27 being so stocked with talent, I think that there could be temptation for a one spot trade down so that we get Mendoza. They still have Geno Smith. They still have to justify why they gave Geno Smith that contract after 1 year. So it may not be a foregone conclusion that Mendoza is destined for the Raiders. The other piece of it, if I were to wear an Allen cap on it, is it would be a very good rebound for the branding of the Jets to draft Mendoza when it's all said and done, because it would sell that hope on a rope that Glenn and Woody are not convincing us of. What do you think?
Look, I don't think it's a lock that the Raiders take him. It's pretty close, though. It does feel like he's the consensus guy. Moore not playing well, I think, hurts. I think he's going to be a Raider. You never say never, though. Things change a lot. Remember, Darnold was a lock to go to Cleveland until he wasn't. Like, the order changes. These teams start overthinking stuff. They meet the prospects. You have the combine, pre-draft workouts. The interviews do matter a lot. And ultimately, Tom Brady's making the final decision. If he thinks Moore is going to be the better quarterback, he might like him better than Mendoza. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, we'll see. I mean, they may overthink it. They may be looking to Arch. Like, who the heck, or anybody, any, like, ballers in the 27 class. So you never know. But, yeah, I mean, obviously it's an odds-on favorite to go number one, but that doesn't mean the Raiders are picking at number one. And I think that's that'll be the intrigue going into the year. Listening to the Mike T debate with you, I'll try and call in if I can ask this directly to him, but he talks about a long-term plan, but like, could you describe what the long-term plan would look like? He doesn't have to know what's actually going on in the room, but like, could he give us an idea of the table of contents of such a plan? Right. Like, what does that even mean? And how good is the plan if the GM and the head coach, who could both hypothetically be replaced at the end of next year, are writing it? How good is it? How is it a long-term plan with a 1 year shelf life, hypothetically, right? So you need someone like a VP operations, like a Matt Ryan type, to help define the long-term plan that goes beyond just GM and head coach.
Couldn't have said it better, Adam. Great call. Glad the internet worked. And that's cool that you got to watch Mendoza light it up the other day. Man, before we get out of here, let's talk about ZipRecruiter. Hiring is not easy. Just ask the Jets, right? But whether you're trying to hire a football coach or you're trying to build a media brand or just find an employer for your business, finding the right people, we know it's hard. Again, ZipRecruiter, this is where they come in. They're going to try and make it as easy as possible for you to hire the right people. If you're hiring, they're going to make it easy. Their powerful matching technology helps you quickly find qualified candidates without wasting your time. You can even see how many job seekers are a good fit right away. It's no wonder why ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site on G2. 4 out of 5 employers find a quality candidate within the first day. So try it for free right now at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back this afternoon. And when we're back this afternoon, the Beast will be on the show to let us know how his day in the suburbs went. Right, Beast?
Yeah, well, right now I'm heading over to another place when I'm picking up some chicken right now from good old Food for Less because we just got out of Menards right now about 6 minutes ago. Yeah, so the ball keeps on rolling, and congratulations to those Knicks. Let me just say it. Go New York, go New York, go!
Well said, Beast. That does it for me. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hey, join the Patreon if you haven't. We update the list of names at the beginning of every month, but I want to shout out Andrew Malaya, Ted Ruggiero, and Ken O'Connell for being our 3 most recent Patreon members. When you sign up for the year, you get 10 raffle tickets applied in the upcoming raffle, which tomorrow features a replica Namath ring, Namath signed helmet, and Super Bowl III framed ticket display. It's our Super Bowl III themed raffle that will be on the show tomorrow. Brandon Tierney joins me if you're watching live right now in 2.5 hours. So quick turnaround. We'll talk to you guys then. I end the show with this. Go Jets.
Oh, hi. Jake wants me to ask you to click on the like button.
That's right, Lane. And if they don't subscribe to the Jake Asman Show, this team may never win another game. Let's go Jets.